In one of the worlds, Life Tekla itself was an ordinary time where people walked along different streets between the brownies and enjoyed life. Everyone greeted each other and also asked how they were doing. And also, the children had a lot of fun, enjoyed life, and played. The parents naturally watched over the children so that, God forbid, they did not fall and get hurt. Everyone was naturally happy, both children and adults, but as soon as he appeared, everyone immediately lost their mood. Even the children knew who this man was and immediately tried to hide behind their parents. And they, in turn, as soon as they saw him, immediately became very angry and asked him to. No one looked at him because his appearance was not the best. Of course, everyone was whispering among themselves and looking at the back. They only called this guy as a scavenger, and he did not stop coming to the city, entering the same room. But as soon as he entered the store, everyone immediately asked, why did he appear? After all, no one was happy about the scavenger, and no one wanted to be near our hero. Everyone immediately left to stay away from him. And as soon as our hero approached the counter, he immediately began to throw out all the garbage from the bag, saying that he would like to sell something. When the seller looked at everything that had been tumbled out of the bag and took his hands, he realized that he had brought rubbish again, but he also understood that he could not give very much for it, so he immediately threw bronze coins on the table. I asked, does he agree? But apparently our hero was very dissatisfied with this because it was 20% of the market price, and of course he couldn't like it. Naturally, our hero, I immediately began shouting that this was robbery. But the man only told her that he was trash and who gave him the right to tell him anything because he was just a scavenger. But our hero understood that in this world, at every step, love can be in danger like monsters. Hunted by humans, they were all called adventurers. Every day they fight monsters, obtaining valuable and rare resources. By destroying monsters, they increase their level. After all, each level is a huge leap in strength. If a person increased the level, then his strength instantly increased. Since everyone understands that the level decides everything in their life and in this world, the level. For our hero, he is equivalent to one because he was a first-level adventurer. And when he arrived at the market, he immediately went to one person with whom he was communicating. Approaching, she always asked her uncle for regular bread, not forgetting to say please, to which the man always greeted the guy. Well, the man immediately said that he had just left a little for him, and our hero, of course, thanked him for this. But when he gave the money, he still understood every time that again he was left without money. But the man immediately turned to the guy and asked him whether he would like to quit his job as an adventurer. Our hero, of course, was very surprised by this. But the man continued to talk about what he thought that there were other activities in which he could succeed. But until the man finished speaking, our hero said that it was too late. He had already been called a scavenger and no one needed him. After all, since childhood he dreamed of being an adventurer, but when he became one, it turned out that a curse was placed on him. Seeing that he was now unable to raise the level, he was very shocked because this could not have happened, since instead of a skill he had a curse that did not allow him to raise the level in any way. And the guy, after a while, he went on his first hunt, but as soon as he was able to defeat some monsters, he crouched in the video in front of him. I mean that he was unable to gain experience, realizing that he really couldn't level up, but he still couldn't give up, because how could that be, and how should he become stronger? And every time he tried to gain experience in order to increase his level, he was shown every time to gain experience. Since our hero, I fought in the hope that one day he would be able to increase his level, but over and over again this sign did not give him peace that he could not gain experience. And after a while, our hero understood that he would remain on the first level all his life, but in the end, at some point, he ran out of all his money and without realizing it. After a while, he began to rob what was left after other adventurers who left some of their spoils after the hunt. Only then was our hero nicknamed the Scavenger. But besides, he understood that no one needed the materials of first-level monsters, and his only chance to survive was this: pick up high-level monsters destroyed by others. But still, everyone around didn't really like our hero, so walking past the crowd, one of the guys catching our hero only said at first that he was an accident. But as soon as our hero, I fell, the guy immediately turned around, and the first thing he did was this: stepped on the bread that our hero I had previously bought from a male friend. Raising his head, he immediately saw the video in front of the guys who said that he was a pathetic scavenger, and very disgusting. Our hero also recognized that it was Jarg. And our hero, I just looked at how the guys stood and laughed at him. But he understood that the whole city knew this and called him like a scavenger, and they hated him so much that they wanted to hire him for no job. But still, he did not understand why everything turned out this way for him. After all, he just wanted to become an adventurer to fulfill his dream. But no matter what he does, everyone knows him as far away as possible. After all, he simply did not have a single choice. Since he could die simply from hunger, and thus he entered the goblin lair, this was the main part of low-level goblins. and he hoped that he could find a couple of destroyed monsters with a rich morning so that he could at least pick up something for sale. But then suddenly he smelled something, not realizing that it was a feeling like something was rotten. And going inside, he immediately saw the destroyed dragon. Despite him, he did not understand what was here. He could be above level 200, and this is a very serious monster. But still, in any case, it didn't matter to him since dragon materials cost tens of times more than drops from ordinary monsters. Despite the dragon, he still understood that, of course, all the prices had already been taken away a long time ago, and only the worst remained. Well, then our hero, I saw the organs because they usually don't touch them because they smell incredibly disgusting, but the smell was very terrible. But our hero didn't disdain this because it can help him survive. But when he tried to pull it out, he immediately felt something inside. He was immediately very surprised. After all, he understood that there was something inside and immediately made a decision that he needed to cut this part and see what was inside. But what he saw in front of him surprised him very much because it was. Despite the breastplate, he didn't understand how it got there. And within a moment, a great force burst out of the breastplate in our hero. I was very scared by this because he did not understand what was happening. Because he understood that if it was a monster, he would not be able to cope with it. But he heard the same voice that said only one word to him: wear it. The guy didn't expect the voice at all because he immediately realized that it was coming from this chest vest. But still, whatever it was, he was sure that it was very dangerous. And he also understood only one thing. This unfolded that he needed to run away as quickly as possible, but then goblins appeared in front of our hero. And as soon as he stopped, he was even more frightened because she was already standing in front of him. About 4 or even 5 goblins who were very aggressive, but that was on its own. He immediately saw the goblins. But so far he did not understand when they had time, even though their level was equal to the first. But there were still not 1 or 2 of them, but more than 4. And he still understood that he was very much adored this time for his sword. He saw that they were also level 1, but his equipment was too poor to fight them. But the goblins had a different opinion, so they immediately began to attack our heroes, and he understood that they would crash. Naturally, the very first goblins were able to knock the sword out of the hands of our hero. And even looking at the goblins, he still understood that he might die here. In this hole, is it really so pitiful that his life will end? We simply remember the moments. As if he was walking down the street and was pushed and no one respected him, he immediately heard a voice that told him again. So that he puts it on and a very strong aura emanates from the armor that was behind our hero. But the first thing our hero thought was that he was going to eat him alive, but then he realized that he would still put it on because it was much better than to be eaten by goblins since they were already stepping on him. Well, besides, he understood that he had no other choice because behind him I had armor that only spoke of him putting it on, and in front of him stood a small number of goblins who were purposefully set up to destroy the guy. And in the meantime, as soon as our hero decided that he would put on this armor, the preparation was already completed. And in the meantime, the registration of the owner was also completed. Literally, a voice was heard from the vest saying that the emergency installation had been confirmed. And as soon as our hero heard about this, he immediately turned around and saw how unexpectedly something began to happen. And literally a moment later, something happened that our hero clearly did not expect. After all, after a couple of seconds, the installation of the Abyss armor was completed, and our hero I already looked like a real knight in luxurious black armor. And when he looked at his hand, he was very surprised by his new successes of the Abyss, because he believed that he would die as soon as they were gone. But then he heard that his armor told him that the owner's orders must be followed. I turned around and still saw how the goblins had already begun to attack our hero, and he still decided to trust his new armor to resist these goblins. And as soon as I put the sword in front of me, he realized that it was quite sharp because at least compared to what he had previously, this is heaven and earth. But he also understood that they were also of the first level, but he had the advantage of armor and sword. And with literally one movement, our hero, waving his sword, was able to literally destroy the goblin in half. But as soon as half of the goblin fell out of him, some kind of glow immediately appeared and began to rise literally from him. But as soon as it flew up in the chest of our hero, he did not understand what was happening and what kind of magic happened. Something very sacred that the goblin had suddenly took off and literally pierced the chest of our hero. But turning around, he still saw how the goblins continued to attack because he had still been able to destroy only one so far, so he understood that his time had come because he understood that with new armor and a sword, he could literally do anything with level 1 goblins. But the effect that happened with the first goblin, which he destroyed in exactly the same order, was repeated with the other destroyed goblins. And he understood that his body was glowing again, but he did not understand why this was happening again. Although the goblins continued to attack those that remained, he did not understand why everything was happening like this. After all, he also had the feeling that this was not even his body. But still, he didn't care about it anymore because he felt the taste of victories over the goblins. So taking out his sword, he immediately rushed to destroy everyone else who was in his way. And what kind of look he had, it had to be seen from the outside. After all, we had never seen our hero in such a guise before. Well, besides, he understood that this was the end for the goblins. And literally in one cut, he was able to destroy the remaining goblins that attacked our hero. And as soon as he stopped, raising his hand, he realized that he was alive after such a battle with a large number of goblins. After all, just think that he was low level and could destroy 5 goblins at once. But the magical lighting did not stop. He was already very interested in what kind of light this was. But then suddenly our hero saw in front of him several signs saying the level has been increased, but he didn't understand how this was possible and that it happened. And from his look, it was immediately clear that he was infinitely surprised since he was given the level. His former owner level was 1st, and now his owner level is 6. And standing in front of the dragon, our hero saw that he had received a message that the level had been received and the owner's level had been confirmed. And at the moment, the owner's level was 6th, which is very surprising. After all, he didn't understand how it was possible that the level was obtained and increased. He didn't understand what it all meant, because he knew that he could not get experience points in any way. But who would have expected, thanks to the armor of the abyss, he was able to use the level absorption skill. But as soon as our hero saw that level absorption as a skill that allows you to absorb the level of defeated enemies, he was very surprised, since he was able to raise his level, and it shocked him very much. But he understood that he did not gain experience from the word at all. His level rose only due to the skill of absorbing the level of his enemies, and he understood that. That same sacredness that was in his chest after every monster he destroyed, it was that same absorption. After all, only now he began to realize the only thing that his life had changed dramatically, since he can now level up and will no longer be a rank 1 beginner. And holding his new sword in his hand, he understood this before, but it seems that I have become even much faster. After all, he was able to get the 5th level and even began to move much faster than when he was the 1st level. And only now he began to understand and realize the fact that now he can become much stronger than he was before. And when he stopped, he was quite happy about it, but still something bothered him. And turning around, he still realized that it was only the smell that bothered him, because it was simply terrible in the place where the dragon was. But after thinking a little, he realized that, however, this was no longer important, because thanks to this dragon, he was able to increase his level. But then, after thinking a little, he began to understand what? If he defeats all the enemies in this cave, he can become even stronger than now. After all, they probably won't be able to hurt him thanks to the armor. If he uses this to the maximum extent possible, he will be able to destroy all the goblins that are in this cave. But while our hero was thinking about this, he suddenly felt something behind his back. After all, he understood that you were turning around, that there should not be strong goblins in this cave. But what he saw in front of him, this is very shocking to him, which makes him very surprised and also scared. For in front of him he saw the Lord of the Goblins. A level 35 Goblin Lord is the protector of the Goblin Cave. And our hero didn't understand where the High Goblin came from, but I still understand that he needs to do only one thing in this situation. This is to turn around and run to the exit as quickly as possible without even looking back. But when he turned around, he noticed that the goblins were attracted by the dragon. Well, besides, the armor also recommended retreating since the enemy was level 35 and understood perfectly well that he could not cope with him. But their levels were a difference of 30, but still he understood that he will no longer be able to escape from the goblins since he began to attack our hero, because he understood that this was very bad since the difference in levels was very large. And after a moment, our hero was still able to slightly stop the goblin's blow, but not for long. He would be so strong that literally in one blow he could throw our hero a very long distance away. What is he from? Having crashed into the wall, he realized that he was in a lot of pain, but still he had to get up. So the goblin was already purposefully coming towards him, and he did not understand what kind of monstrous power this was. Although he managed to raise the level, but he was still very weak to resist against the level 35 goblin. After all, he understood that this was very bad, although only recently did he think that he could raise the level. But all his plans went awry, as he also realized that he was still as unlucky as before. But the only thing in which he was very lucky was that he was able to escape from the goblin. But besides, he still didn't understand how he could get out of here now, as the exit is guarded by an army of the Goblin Lord. But still, turning back to where he came from, he also realized that he was too weak. But still, a good idea occurred to him, because he thought that it was possible to wait in safety until they all left there. The idea, of course, was very good until one of the goblins came to our hero, walking straight towards him. Although he was of the 1st level, he still saw our hero and immediately began to attack him. carried a first-level goblin, and ours was already great because he was able to simply kill a goblin by the head, which he could not do before. Well, not only grabbing the head, but literally throwing the goblin into the wall with ease with his hands was no longer difficult for our hero. Since in the world where he was, he decided everything. The only thing was the level, since even they should have understood the difference between them. Just as he understands the difference between him and the Goblin Lord, but still I will destroy the goblin. It was immediately revealed to him that there was confirmation of the owner's level. After all, his current level has become 7th AA, although just a couple of minutes ago he was 5th. And he remembered, after all, he can increase the level, and if he absorbs enough level, he can defeat even the Goblin Lord. After all, he created that before he could not destroy anyone, but now everything has changed much more, since now he must destroy in order to survive, which in fact he began to do, destroying the goblins one after another. In addition, his sword was so strong that he could literally swing even against 2 goblins in one movement, destroy 2 at once, because the sword was sharpened so much that it literally untied everything in its path without even applying strong efforts to it. And after a moment he simply destroyed the goblins, turns around and left, realizing that in this world only the strongest win, and only those with a high level can survive. Since the weak will always obey the strong, and he knows this from his own experience. And meanwhile our hero, I was already level 15. But in front of me in the tunnel, he saw an incomprehensible outcome, and in front of one of them there were 2 torches that were illuminated. Well, the armor also recommended examining the side caves, which were illuminated, and our hero was also interested in what was inside and going inside. He saw in front of him a lot of gold coins in various boxes, as well as gold things. I understand that the goblins took all these treasures from the people. After all, even if these were all first-level goblins, ordinary people could not cope with. But he still decided to see what was around, because maybe he would find something that he could use in the future. But as he looked around, he was attracted by something more than just gold. Oddly enough, it was a box, but he was very interested in what was inside, and opening one of them, he saw in front of him a few bottles. You understand that this is a supposed restoration potion. After all, it really was them, and our hero understood that he needed to take them for further battle so that at any moment he could recover. But our hero also noticed a remark that the armor has a special space for potions. And as soon as our hero thought about some kind of space where he could put these potions right there, some kind of reaction began to occur, and a new compartment appeared literally next to his pocket, and upon closer inspection he realized that his equipment had a new chain for storing greens. And having put inside all the possible products that he could, the only thing he thought about was that it was a very useful thing, and he was very grateful to his equipment for this opportunity to store the potion very close to him and not carry them in his hands or bag. But still, our hero would like to take some gold, but he also understood that it would interfere with him in battles. But he also understood that his main goal now is to return to the city alive, but already become stronger. After all, if he can get out of here, he could get rich by selling materials from monsters, and that was great for him. Therefore, he made perhaps the right decisions to leave without gold so that it would not bother him. But as soon as he suddenly began to walk behind me, he heard a voice, and I turned around. He immediately ran in the direction from where he heard the voice, thinking that there really was someone there. But what he saw behind the boxes surprised him very much. After all, a girl was sitting there, and he began to understand that the goblins take not only gold but also people. So naturally, he immediately told her to wait because he would help her now, and release the ropes, he immediately said. That she was very lucky that he was still able to notice her. The girl immediately smiled and thanked our hero. Imagine that her name is Meal, and she is from the village of Rakuru. But as soon as the girl introduced herself, she decided to ask the name of the guy who saved her, to which our hero, I suddenly fell into a slight stupor, thinking I said that his name is Ark. And as soon as the girl heard this name, she immediately realized that it was him. But the girl didn't even have time to say anything when the guy asked her if she was familiar with the nickname Scavenger. But the girl immediately asked for forgiveness. They say that she heard about him in rumors, but now the situation is completely different. Well, she also noticed that he was completely different from the Sukhovs she had heard. But our hero turned around and asked what we were talking about, and the girl said that he saved her life, and in her opinion, he doesn't look like a scavenger at all. So the girl immediately smiled and said that for her he was not a scavenger but a hero. Why our hero? I immediately thought about it because he always wanted to become an adventurer in order to save people from danger. So he immediately told the girl that he would take her to the village. She needed to hurry up and follow him. And he immediately began to go in the direction from which he came in order to still go outside and see the girl off in the village, thinking that even if it's a little with everyone, he's still very happy at the moment. And walking through the tunnel, turning around, he thought that it was better for the girls to hide behind the stones for a while he checked the whole situation around, because at some point our hero began to feel the approach of goblins. And as soon as he turned around, he saw a fairly large number of goblins, which were much larger than the first time. I understand that there are a lot of them, since their number was already more than 15. And even after thinking a little that there are even about 30, and they are all first level, but he has 15. Therefore, the only thing our hero said to the goblin was that they should get ready because they would soon become his level, pointing the sword towards the goblins. But for some reason the goblins had a different opinion. Therefore, this entire crowd that stood in front of our hero immediately rushed towards the guy. But still, how quickly they ran towards him, they also quickly disappeared from the destruction of our hero. After all, each castle destroyed at least 2 or even 3 goblins with a sword at one fell swoop. And our hero, meanwhile, very quickly absorbed the levels, becoming stronger, because thanks to level absorption he attacks faster and faster. And also his movements become as fast as attacks, but also his reaction increases significantly. Well, besides, his senses also increased with strength and speed, and he could already feel the attack behind his back. And thanks to his speed, he could also quickly return from any attack and literally dissolve. In addition, quickly enough, immediately after leaving, he began to attack to destroy everyone in his path, and of course for this, his level increased very much. And for our hero at some point it literally became entertainment because he was perverted in various ways, destroying everyone in front of him. Because he felt that power that he had never felt before, because the more he destroyed enemies, the stronger he would become, and he understood this perfectly. And our hero, I looked at the goblins with a completely different look, because he looked at them as at a simple level and not as monsters that he might have been afraid of before. And after a moment of stopping, our hero received a new notification that the owner's level had been confirmed. And this level was already 35, although literally 2 minutes ago it was only 15. But then the girl looked out from under the stone and asked our hero if she could go out, to which our hero replied that not yet. But then the girl turned around and saw the monster, to which our hero said that he destroyed so many of his relatives, and finally he came. Turning around in front of our hero, he walked out, the Goblin Lord, who was furiously determined to completely destroy his rival this time. But at the same time, our hero, looking at the Goblin Lord, understood that he wanted to destroy him just as much as he wanted to destroy him, because he finally came to our hero. But apparently the Goblin Lord was in a furious mood, so he immediately made his fierce cry, to which our hero I immediately prepared for battle. After all, he was already level 35, although the Goblin Lord is also level 35. But our hero only told the Lord that he is no longer the same dog that ran away from him a little earlier. I just threw back my weapon and prepared for the attack. The only thing he said was that he didn't think that he could defeat him so easily, so she prepared for battle in the same way from the moment she escaped. And as soon as the battle began, our hero was able to deliver only a single blow, but he still came to the cell where he needed it, as he was able to wound the Goblin Lord in the side. But as soon as our hero turned around, he noticed goblins who were furious looking at our hero. And as soon as he looked at everyone, he realized that their number was 10 in total. But in the meantime, as the Goblin Lord, and while still alive, he would not want to be distracted by trifles. Therefore, having called the girl away, he immediately asked for knives. And the girl, don't ask unnecessary questions, just answered yes, and immediately threw a holster with knives towards our hero. But for some reason, all the knives practically began to fly out of the holster, flying straight towards our hero. The girl, seeing this, only asked for forgiveness for the fact that she threw it so awkwardly, to which our hero, I told her not to pay attention because he managed to catch them quite cleverly. And since his level increased in large numbers, he could already perform such actions as calmly and quickly enough attacks. Thus he was easily able to catch every knife that fell, immediately using these knives to attack the goblins who were a very easy target for him. And by the way, his movement was so fast that some goblins did not even notice how quickly their opponent disappeared in front of them and already appeared in another place. And literally all the knives of our hero, I stood up. The only thing I said was that they were unlucky because they shouldn't have interfered with him. Since now they have no desire to help, the situation has worsened for his lord. Therefore, literally alone, with a slight movement, our hero threw away all the swords that he had in his hands, thereby destroying all the goblins remaining in front of him. And thus he was able to absorb the levels of all the goblins who stood against him, and so his level was raised to 45. And in an instant the Goblin Lord decided to attack our hero from behind, but then he felt it was easy enough to put his sword in order to repel the attack, because now his level is 45, so he is now much stronger than. But the subsequent blow hit our hero hard. He didn't understand why this was happening. After all, his level was higher than his. He didn't understand where such strong pressure was coming from on our hero. After all, he was able to easily, literally throw his opponent away from him, and that he, our hero, did not understand what was happening. But here our hero receives the highest warning that this monster had a bracelet that increases his performance in battle. And our hero now understood why he looked so strong. He had an object with increased characteristics. This bracelet was on the hand in which he held his blade. Although usually it's not so easy to raise the level and therefore become even more adventurous. Equip items that increase characteristics in battle or during defense, however. Our hero could not think that monsters could only equip the same things. Off we go. Our hero has already accepted what his next goal will be, and most importantly, after all, he needed to destroy the bracelet at any cost so that the level of this monster would become much lower than it is now. And the Goblin Lord immediately began to attack our hero, trying to destroy him, but he still managed to jump away from this attack. But with such attacks, our hero only realized that it would not be easy for him, but apparently he will have to give it his all, using all your strength and even more to win. To which our hero immediately began to attack the Goblin Lord, but then he defended himself quite well, stopping the attack. At least one was so strong that the pancake hit the ground quite hard. But nevertheless, he still managed to attack our hero in parallel. And such an attack, our hero flew far enough away because he also did not expect that there would be a counterattack. But nevertheless, he immediately stood up, saying that this was not the end. But turning around, he saw the destroyed goblins with their knives, and then a good idea came to his mind. Having taken these knives, he immediately rushed to attack the Goblin Lord, and gradually he began to throw one knife at the monster. But he still managed to defend himself from these attacks with his weapons, to which our hero did not even think about stopping his attacks and continued to strike. Although at some point the Goblin Lord realized that it was already quite difficult for him to defend himself because the attacks were very intense. And immediately after the attack with knives, our hero grabbed the sword and also ran towards the Goblin Lord in order to destroy him. Well, as soon as our hero flew up, the goblins didn't understand what was happening. And our hero said that he had already said that from the very beginning this was the only thing he wanted, and his goal was this only. The bracelet is on his hand because as soon as he destroys it, the Goblin Lord will lose all his strength, saying that there will be no more surprises. Our hero immediately turned to the Goblin Lord, saying that then at the entrance to the dungeon he saw an old weak boy, but now he is many times stronger than the Goblin Lord, and now he should run in fear. Of course, if he can do it, since only now with one attack can he completely destroy that Goblin Lord, since their level is very different. Therefore, right there, literally in one attack, he was able to do something that he previously lacked the strength to do. So, as the Goblin Lord trying to protect himself, she immediately flew away, but at a very long distance. So far that he literally crashed into the wall with all his might. But our hero approached and asked, "What's the matter? Is he afraid of its power?" After all, it was no wonder, since now his life is at stake. And the first thing he did was simply knock the weapon out of the hands of the Goblin Lord. Our hero just got up to remember those words that everyone called him a scavenger, and the fact that everyone doesn't like them. I understand that if he can defeat him, he will forever get rid of his weakness once and for all. Therefore, for the Goblin Lord, it was the end, since our hero, I was no longer going to wait not a single second, because thanks to him, he will become even stronger. So he was the only one who thanked him for the new power. And literally within a moment, all levels began to be attracted to our hero, thereby increasing the level of the owner. And within a moment, the level of our owner was the 80s. Yes, and he looked completely different than when he was the first. But then the girl abruptly kicked out and asked if they could leave already. But when she came closer to our hero, she noticed the Goblin Lord. They say that he was able to defeat him. After all, he is now the strongest adventurer in this place. About the strongest, and yet he decided to get materials to sell them in the city. He thought it was great because it was the big fang of the Goblin Lord. Although before our hero could not even think that the day would come when he would obtain such rare material. To which even the girl told our hero not to worry because she could carry them, since the bag would already be filled with various materials such as the Goblin Lord's blade-cursed bones and many others. To which our hero only thanked the girl for helping with the materials, and the only thing she said was that he should not worry because he saved her life. It's not difficult for her to help him. But then the girl sharply asked what they would do with him, to which our hero replied that he had already gathered some good materials, and thought a little about the fact that he no longer needed to hide, and he decided that they could just return to the village. But he was also interested in the fact that if they left the goblins as they were, they might again kidnap the girls from the village. So the only thing he asked the girl was whether she would be with him a little longer, to which she replied that she didn't mind, but completely asked where they would go. And our hero, turning around, said that he would not allow any more kidnappings from the village, because he will destroy all the goblins in this cave. And after a while, when they destroyed everyone, they did not decide that he should return, and our hero was already level 100, thinking that when he left this village he was level 1, but now he's already level 100, and he's risen quite well. Moreover, at level 100, he will be able to defeat more monsters in the area. After all, he had finally become a real adventurer, and this made him very happy. But then the girl stood in front of our hero and said that she had never heard of adventurers with a 3-digit level. Speaking of the fact that he is clearly no longer a beginner, but the strongest adventurer in the village. And our hero understood that there was true truth in the girl's words. Moreover, speaking of this, he had never seen adventurers with such a high level before, saying that he can absorb the levels of defeated enemies and no one should worry, because he was also surprised when he first saw it. To which the girl said that with such strength he could become the strongest, and she will also keep her fingers crossed for him and hope that everything works out for him. But while our hero is talking to the girl, a group of guys unexpectedly came out from the side, greeting our hero like a scavenger. But our hero turned around and immediately recognized that it was Zharg, to which he immediately asked what kind of armor he had. They immediately began to laugh, saying that since he could not raise the level, he decided to rely on equipment, since he will always remain a scavenger, even if he puts on beautiful armor. Besides, he still remains the same weakling as before, and some equipment will not help him with such a difference in levels. But this time our hero did not intend to listen to all these ridicule, and he immediately flew up to the guy, presenting a knife, and saying that he was tired of him. And could he please shut up and just be quiet because he doesn't want to listen to him? After all, as soon as our hero flew up to the guy with a knife in his hands, he only asked him to do a favor. It fell silent, and I don't talk anymore because he's tired of him. But the guy, looking at this reaction, asked, how dare he treat him like that? He immediately raised his leg and decided to attack our hero. And as soon as he hit our hero, moving a little to the side, the guy told him not to get arrogant. Taking out his sword, the only thing he reminded was that the guy was a scavenger. But what happened next? The guy clearly didn't expect this because our hero was able to easily knock the sword out of the guy's hands and put it down. And the guys who were with that guy immediately took out their swords. And our hero turns around and asks them if they also want to try to fight him. And while the guy was sitting there, he understood that he was level 20, but how could he be level 1? To which our hero said that his level was 20th and he was a weakling because our hero was already several times stronger than him. And one of the guys I decided to check, turning to Zharg, told him to check its level. And as soon as the guy took out the tablet to check the level, he was very surprised because how was this possible? He had the 100th level. I think that it might have been a joke, but if it's true, but when the guy looked at our hero, he didn't understand what kind of monster this was. But our hero exhaled again, thinking that at first he was a scavenger and now they are calling him a monster. Turning around, they say that he is the most ordinary adventurer, but as soon as our hero said this, he was very surprised by the fact that the guys immediately began to run away. I understand that their speed is actually quite high when they are afraid. And the girl, looking at our hero, said that he really seemed to have changed. And she was very happy for him. Turn around, she asked him to. I followed her. She also suggested that they tell everyone about his new abilities. But our hero had one more small matter because he needed to do something. After all, he went to the same man whom he visited before he left the village, who also asked, what does he need? And our hero replied that he simply wants to sell the materials. But the man still remembered the guy, saying his former nickname as a scavenger, and he immediately said that it was not worth wasting his time because he probably brought some kind of garbage again. But our hero only smiled at this. He immediately asked, how about this? After all, if it's trash, then of course it will go away. Show the big fang of the Goblin Lord. To which the man immediately grabbed the fang and immediately began to consider whether it was a fake because he did not understand where he could get such a thing. To which our hero replied that he defeated him and thereby took the fang. To which the man said that he could not simply take his word for it with what merits he had before. To which our hero immediately turned to the girl and she happily confirmed that it was indeed true. But as soon as our hero began to pour other materials out of the bag, the man was very surprised because he didn't understand how this was possible. And the only thing our hero has already asked is whether he will buy or will they go elsewhere. To which the man, of course, said that he would buy everything because how could he refuse such rare materials? And to this our hero only smiled and said that he hoped this time he would be worthy of appreciating them. But immediately after he sold the rare materials, he decided, according to tradition, to go to his friend where he had previously bought bread. And as soon as our hero was noticed, they immediately called out to grandfather so that he could see who had come to him. To which grandfather, as soon as he turned around, was pleasantly surprised when our hero left. To which he, in turn, took out a bag not with materials, but with gold. And the man was very surprised. I don't understand where he got so much money from because he thought it was incredible. And our hero replied that he was finally able to defeat the strongest monster. Well, as expected, the men only congratulated our hero. I'm happy for him. And the first thing the man did, of course, was hug him because he was really happy because his friend really succeeded, because he will be really very happy about it. To which our hero, the only thing I did was smile, thanking him for such support. But then suddenly our hero, I heard something far from me, turned around and saw him, that a large number of people began to collide in one place, looking somewhere into the distance. And the guy immediately began to run in that direction, asking grandfather and the girl to wait for him here. After all, these were monsters that were able to break through the fence and break into the village. They have already begun to target the villagers in order to destroy them. But our hero, thank God, was nearby, and he still managed to repel this attack on the girl. And as soon as our hero, I was able to destroy one monster, he immediately asked the girl if she was okay, and she replied that she was fine. But here's our hero. I noticed a couple more monsters, wondering who they are. But however, it didn't matter to him because they shouldn't have show up in the village today because they won't go any further. Although in front of our hero there were werewolves of level 8, there were quite a lot of them, and looking at the group of werewolves, our hero understood that they could not be allowed to penetrate the village. But people, as soon as they saw a large number of werewolves, immediately asked them to call Jarg and his group. After all, they didn't understand where they had gone, and our hero only remembered how they quickly began to run away from our hero, realizing that he would have to take responsibility for destroying all the werewolves that came to the village. But the werewolves were also very aggressive in order to destroy the boy who stood in their way, and our hero understood that they were level 8 and did not pose any danger to him. Although at other times they did not pose a danger to him, there were enough of them that they could split up and attack people. And our hero understood that there were a lot of residents left, but he couldn't forget about them either, so he made the only right decision. After all, he understood that if he did nothing, all the inhabitants would simply be destroyed. Since the werewolves were already quite close to the people, they were already trying to attack them. But the guy who was chosen by one of the werewolves, I was very lucky because our hero, I appeared in time enough to destroy the werewolf who decided to attack the boy. But this was just the beginning because when he turned around, he noticed that there were still a very large number of werewolves there. And of course, he immediately launched into battle, destroying werewolves in his path. But he still didn't forget to ask people, "I'm not wounded," or they, to which the same guy replied, "No, he's not wounded. Thank you for saving us." But then he recognized our hero because he thought he was further away. He said that he can call him whatever he wants because now he has more important things to do. Even though they called him a scavenger, but still he couldn't just leave them in the lurch. After all, he couldn't just leave them and throw them to certain death. All the people immediately began to recognize our hero, calling him a scavenger, and the fact that he was saving their lives because they were very surprised by this because they did not expect that he would be the one saving them. But then suddenly our hero realized that he had risen another 72 levels, but remembering that there were 10 werewolves. Realizing that if he had defeated them, he should have gotten to the 80th level, and it turns out that he missed one, but turning around he noticed how there was a werewolf on the roof of one of the buildings, and below him there was a little girl. He was very scared, I understand that. The werewolf has already begun to jump from the roof onto the little girl. After all, he understood perfectly well that even with such a high level, he could not save them all. But since the girl was very small, she didn't even understand what she needed to do. She just watched as the big werewolf flew straight at her. Our hero understood that he could not accept this, but then the idea came to his mind that perhaps he could throw the sword, realizing that he only has one chance to get in, however. Rather than regret later, it's better to do it now. Although he does not take risks, he still made the decision to throw the sword and not regret in the future that he did not do it. The sword quickly flew towards the werewolf, and the girl, already frightened, hid her face. But as expected for our hero, the sword hit the target, throwing the werewolf some distance from the girl and destroying him. And after just a few seconds, our hero approached the girl, who was very scared, but she did not understand what had happened. The girl who wrapped the hero was very happy about it. The girl immediately asked our hero if he had come to save them. She answered something that of course he came, and he was glad that she was okay. And the girl immediately smiled, thanking the guy for saving her. And our hero was really glad that he was able to save her from the werewolf, but now our hero was approached by a very large number of villagers who literally surrounded our hero, and one of the guys I turned to our hero as a scavenger, they say that they have a conversation with him, to which our hero thought that he should have expected that they would be unhappy with the fact that they were saved by a scavenger, but then suddenly the man just said the word scavenger. Our hero turned around and said that he had to go. After all, they don't want to see the face of the scavenger. But suddenly all the residents asked him to wait, and our hero, turning around, asked what else do they need, but suddenly the only thing they said was thank you. And also the mother of the girl who saved our hero, I also thanked him for that. He saved her daughter from death. But as soon as our hero saw that the woman was bowing, he immediately spread his arms and asked her to raise her head because there was no need to do this. Because he just wanted to help them, and he did, that's all. They say that before he collected loot from the dead, and this will not change that. Now he had the strength to help others, because now he will become an adventurer helping people, so they should watch him too. Since for this he will be immensely grateful to them, you understand that on this day, from a pathetic scavenger, he became an adventurer who saved the village from destruction. And the very next day, walking down the street, the girl who saved our hero noticed the boy and immediately ran up to him, said good morning to our hero. But the guy turned around to see the girl. He didn't expect to meet her, but something immediately asked where his armor was. And our hero smiles and asks about the armor of the abyss. She says after all, he's wearing them because he can now snap his finger and put it on and take it off whenever he wants, because he discovered it only in the morning. And thanks to this armor, he was finally able to become a real adventurer, to which the girl said that she was glad that he could find it in that cave. But he immediately began to think, remembering from the dragon, he did not understand why there was a dead dragon in the goblin cave. Although at the same time, does it matter? And in the meantime, events moved to the goblin cave not far from the place where the dragon died. The same guy ran there shouting at him to run away faster. Vidam needed to break away from him. The guys ran away very quickly and screamed for help. But then suddenly the guy turned around and said that he didn't understand, because what is a monster? How is he doing here? And what happened? But here we were only shown a very large eye, and it was not clear what kind of monster it was. The guy sitting, looking at this monstrous eye, understood that this might be his end. And meanwhile, our hero, I suddenly felt something turned around. He didn't understand what had just happened, but he clearly felt something outsiders. But turning around, he was a little surprised because he saw some crowd of people who the only thing they said was thank you for saving them. But in the meantime, they began to say that thanks to him, no one was hurt, and he was ready to sacrifice his life to save them. After all, they are all really very grateful to him, and these are not just words. But then suddenly, a woman came out with a girl who had previously saved our hero, and the girl asked to listen to him. And the events a little earlier, where the guy who was making fun of our hero ran after the Cyclops, thinking that they had almost finished him off. It was Zharg. His level was 20. He immediately told his charges to run faster. And they immediately said, well, their level was 17 and also 16th. But then suddenly the Cyclops began to enter one of the caves, and the guy stopped and realized that it looked like he had run right here. And also reflecting on the fact that due to the fact that they were not there when the village was attacked by werewolves, they were fined a decent amount. This is the only reason why this prey should not be missed under any circumstances. Meanwhile, I moved inside the cave feeling some strange smell, and when it began to intensify in the direction where that same smell came from, and after some time he came to the place where the dragon lay. But then suddenly the Cyclops raised his head and smelled that same aroma, and he literally became furious as soon as he felt it, as his saliva began to flow very strongly. The guys, walking deeper into the cave, realized that he had to be somewhere ahead. But suddenly the guys felt something without understanding what it was. After all, as I was eating, some strange smell hit my nose, and I didn't immediately start talking about the fact that they might be about to vomit. But the fact that one of the guys saw it was a little shocking, asking my friends if they saw it too. After all, they saw how that same Cyclops devoured the dragon that was inside the cave. He ate quite furiously, literally tearing him into pieces as he was very attracted to the smell. But after taking a closer look, one of the guys asked me to wait because he understood that something was wrong. I didn't take a closer look at the Cyclops, which began to evolve quite quickly. The only thing the guy said when he saw it was that he must be joking. But then they showed us our hero who was walking along the path and just thought that he was on the right path, because he understood that it was not just a strange feeling because he felt someone unusual. And approaching the cave, he realized that it seemed like he had some kind of connection with this place. But something inside him really shocked him, giving him a little thought. He still didn't understand what was going on and what was happening inside, but as soon as he went inside, he felt that same smell that intensified quite strongly, and he realized that that same dragon should lie there ahead. But having walked a little further, our hero, I just looked intently at his lip, seeing something incredible, and it was Cyclops, who evolved the power of one of the guys in his hands, and also Cyclops grew wings and he became much larger than he was before. But then the Cyclops suddenly turned and noticed our hero, and the first thing he did, he turned his body towards our hero and threw out the guy he was holding in his hand, and literally the Cyclops and our hero faced each other. To which our hero, looking at the Cyclops, I understand that he has a rather frightening aura because he has never met such demons. But still, he was confident in himself because he didn't care, because he now has level 180, and with such a level it is impossible to lose. Therefore, having decided that before he could make his move, our hero understood that he needed to attack first. But without having time to do anything, the vest issued a warning saying that the difference in levels was too great and he was advised to avoid battle. But as soon as our hero listened to this, he was a little in an incomprehensible situation since he did not understand what was happening. And since he hesitated a little, the Cyclops was quickly able to carry out his attack, hitting our hero. After all, the blow was so strong that the guy flew off the Cyclops quite a long distance. When he raised his head a lot, he didn't understand what happened and why, but still he made a very big mistake. And our hero was asked to check the status of the enemy, which he immediately did. He lay on the floor. But as soon as he saw the status of the Cyclops, he couldn't believe it, because I can't be like that. Since our hero saw that the Cyclops of the Abyss was level 200, realizing that their level was so high. And the vest also warned that an accumulation of powerful energy had been detected in the area of the Cyclops' head. And then it was recommended to immediately retreat. But our hero understood that he did not have enough strength to even get up. But regret still continued to say that he should immediately retreat, repeating this over and over again more and more. But no matter how hard our hero tried, he couldn't get up or even move a little because that same blow was quite hard, realizing that if he didn't do anything then, it will be the end, because the Cyclops has already begun to concentrate energy in the upper part of his head. And literally a moment later, the report on the attack began, because there were 10 seconds left before the strike was made. And our hero, I began to think about the fact that he's really going to die now. But still his faith was stronger than the damage received, and little by little he began to lean on the sword and slowly stood up. But still the report continued, and it was already the 3rd second before the attack was launched. And a moment later, another 2 seconds later, the Cyclops, using energy literally from the eye, shot a strong weapon at our hero. But fortunately, he still couldn't hit the direct blows, but literally threw him back a little, to which our hero I understood that even such damage was enough for him to lose consciousness. And looking at his opponent, he only thought that he was dead. So he decided not to finish off and just head towards the exit from the cave. But literally a moment later, our hero came to his senses and began to slowly get up and ask the summer what happened, to which he immediately received the answer that the enemy had left the cave and perhaps he mistook the owner for the dead. And as soon as our hero heard this, he realized that he was definitely mistaken, although he was close to her. But then he discovers that our hero has a minor injury, and the first thing he did was recommend using a potion to heal wounds, and the boy completely forgot about the potion. After all, he found them in the goblins and took out one of them. While drinking, he realized that now at least it was easier for him to move. He should thank the goblins for their potion. But looking at the exit, he also understood that he needed to catch up with the Cyclops, because he definitely thought that he was heading towards the village. But as soon as our hero I began to go out, he immediately heard a voice that addressed him as a scavenger. And the most important thing is that our hero, I recognized this voice. Turning around, he saw. Turning around, our hero saw Jarga. He immediately said that he had a potion in the video and literally told our hero in an order form to give them here. After all, for someone like him, this is too valuable an item. And as soon as he heals his wounds, he will immediately run away, saying that this monster probably went to the village, and as long as he was distracted, he could survive. So he immediately began to scream vividly. He literally ordered our hero to give him his potions. But the guy didn't fully understand that he was in the wrong position to command, because such scoundrels should not exist in this world. And our hero immediately turned to the armor of the Abyss, asking if potions could heal his wounds, to which the armor replied no, because he had too much early and the chances of survival even using the potion were 0, because he will die in a few minutes. But our hero was still interested in something, so he wanted to ask, since he was wondering if the level absorption skill works on people, and the vest replied that of course it works. Therefore our hero turned to the guy and said that he could not help him in any way, to which he replied that he already knew about it. But the only thing the guy wanted was for this torment to end quickly, but perhaps he wants too much. And our hero replied that he had a way to save him from suffering, but the guy immediately said that he was not stupid and understood everything, so he should do it. Raising his head, he only told her that he could destroy it. And our hero noticed that, to be honest, he hated him all this time. However, now I understood that he would be missed. And literally in an instant, our hero increased from level 180 to level 200. Meanwhile, the Cyclops had already left the cave and was looking straight at the city. He immediately began to shout furiously towards the city, but in the meantime our hero, I was already very close, saying that he had finally found him. And literally a moment later he carried out his attack quite effectively, since he was able to wound the Cyclops and not receive any blows in return. But then our hero, looking at the Cyclops, said that he would have to die at his hands. And he immediately began to attack the Cyclops, although he, in turn, took a stance to protect himself from attacks. That he can give him advice because he should finish off his enemies, since our hero was already level 200. And since he didn't do this, it's his own fault because now they have the same level, like our hero is 200 and the Abyssal Cyclops is also level 200. And raising his sword, he immediately said that they could begin, although at the same time he completely forgot to say that he should be more careful, saying that even though he hated him, he had to destroy his friend with this very hand, so now he is beside himself with rage. But the Cyclops did not intend to listen anymore, so he himself rushed into the attack, trying to hit our hero. Although he was large and quite powerful, his maneuverability was still not at the same level as our hero because the boy was able to literally jump behind the back of the large, furious Cyclops in just one movement, pushing off from his shoulder. Finding himself behind the Cyclops, our hero tried to strike him straight in the back on his wings. But as soon as he stopped, he realized that these wings were stronger than he thought, and the Cyclops meanwhile began to concentrate energy at his eye for a further attack. But our hero immediately shouted that he would no longer allow him to shoot. But then suddenly the Cyclops stopped concentrating energy, and our hero, I thought that perhaps it was a trick, because with a sharp movement he struck our hero, causing him to even fly off a little. But still it was not the same. There was a lot of damage as last time, while the Cyclops still did not give up hope of dealing with his opponent, literally taking out a log to attack him. And although their levels are the same, Tsukuba turned out to be a difficult opponent, and our hero struck literally like a feather, flew at full speed into a concrete wall, thinking that since their levels are the same, he didn't understand why he couldn't defeat him because he also used Vovka. But the delivery of one product that he took from the goblins, he immediately drank it to return to normal. Wipe your mouth. He only said that this was not the end because he was very angry and his energy literally came out of everything. And as soon as our hero I returned to the attack, the armor immediately told him that a huge accumulation of energy had been recorded and it was recommended to immediately retreat. But what our hero I only understood was that he still couldn't calm down and he would fight to the end. Cyclops' shot did not hit our hero because he was able to dodge. And at the same time, the attack of the Cyclops was followed by the attack of our hero, who shouted for him to receive and saw how the Cyclops was literally trying to protect himself with his wings. But our hero, I probably fought one of the strongest times in this battle that I could, and this blow finally broke through the protection of the wings. Our hero understood that this was even great because he was able to wound him. But what he saw next shocked him a little, because the Cyclops simply turned around and began to purposefully look at one of the houses in the city. And as soon as he saw this look, he thought that the Cyclops really wants to destroy all the inhabitants in order to restore strength. And he immediately literally flew up, to which our hero I just shouted for him to stop. But he in turn was purposefully targeting the city, yes. And our hero understood that he needed to return as quickly as possible because the village is in great danger since the Cyclops simply will not communicate with people. And meanwhile, the cycle was already approaching the city where people, as soon as they saw it, were very shocked, not understanding what it was. After all, before they had not seen such a terrible monster that came this time because all the previous monsters were quite weak. But just like the Cyclops and our hero, he came to the cities too quickly to save people. I was looking straight at his back, but the Cyclops didn't even pay attention to our hero. He immediately began to destroy houses and destroy everything in his path. Thank God people immediately began to run away, realizing that the danger was already close enough and no one could avoid the Cyclops, who was very determined to destroy everything around. Meanwhile, he again began to concentrate his energy in the eye to strike, and as soon as our hero saw this, he only said that perhaps he was mocking him, although the Cyclops managed to shoot her best, which was so powerful that it literally demolished everything in its path. But our hero managed to dodge this attack and not get hurt by jumping onto the roof from the side of the Cyclops. To which our hero, I decided not to waste time and immediately attacked the Cyclops and screamed for him to stop. Taking out his sword, he immediately tried to strike the Cyclops, but he raised his hand in time to defend. But as soon as our hero landed on the ground, he turned around and saw that he had done absolutely nothing to the Cyclops because he was able to dodge, and he immediately began to regroup for a distant attack. But the Cyclops was also not an ordinary A, and he immediately rushed after our hero, heading straight to attack him. Although our hero managed to turn around and try to strike, the Cyclops still deftly set up his defense. And since the defense was quite good, our hero, could not break through it, realizing that this was not all. He immediately said that he would definitely save his village because maybe he would surrender or he would destroy it. But looking at the Cyclops, one could immediately understand that he was clearly not going to give up because, again, he began to concentrate energy near his eye to strike. But still, our hero managed to dodge this deadly ray over and over again. On cycles, as soon as he saw that it was better not to help, he immediately threw back his hand to strike a physical blow. But he managed to hit our hero. He immediately pushed off from the roof and began to run away somewhere. Even though our hero, I landed very hard on the ground from such a blow, but he's still there. Understood that he could fight, but besides, he was not finished yet, since only he could defeat such a strong demon, and therefore he could not let the village down and simply surrender to the Chikapo. But then a man appeared looking at the Cyclops and just said, "That's it." And the man also noticed that he was quite huge, to which he in turn began to scream furiously, looking at the man. But from the man's look, it was clear that he was not the least bit afraid. He was only thinking about the fact that this was a very small village, because even if he runs away, they will still catch up with him. Then in this case, he can only buy time for a real hero. We have already, literally a moment, our hero stood in front of the man. I looked at the Cyclops, to which the men said that this is the very hero I was waiting for. To which the boy turned around and asked the man, "Is such a ragamuffin, how can he be a hero?" To which the man said that he was the spitting image of a hero. Isn't that why he came to his aid? But our hero still didn't know how to defeat him, to which the man said that there was nothing wrong with that, since they already had the same level. He immediately reached into one of the boxes, telling him why so many unnecessary thoughts. And as soon as he found what I was looking for, he immediately threw it back to our hero and told him to catch it. But as soon as our hero caught it, he realized that this was the same bread that he ate when he was a scavenger. And the man told him to remember those days, because has anything changed now? And our hero began to eat again the same bread that he had eaten before. They say that it is terrible as usual, but thanks to him, he was able to gather his thoughts about you, man. He took out his sword. He only apologized for keeping the demon waiting, inviting him to continue. "Raise your sword," pointing it at the Cyclops. He said the only thing he said was that he was apologizing for keeping him waiting by offering to continue. He immediately began to attack the Cyclops with instant speed. Although I was quite strong, the Cyclops still managed to defend himself, since their level was equal and the Cyclops' defense was quite good. But our hero was not going to stop there, so her attacks continued, but at some point something happened that our hero clearly did not expect. After all, the Cyclops managed to grab the guy by the hand, and he couldn't understand what happened. But the Cyclops immediately spun the guy literally into one of the neighboring houses. But as soon as our hero stopped, he immediately thought that he was very tired of all this, but then he felt something behind him and then heard a voice turning around that just said no. At the video of the child, he immediately thought, why is the child still here? Did they run away like everyone else did from the village? Our hero also began to shout for the baby to run away as quickly as possible, since the Cyclops was close enough to them, to which the child immediately said that he was very scared, and he realized that his legs couldn't even move. Meanwhile, while they were talking, the Cyclops had already turned his attention to that very child, and our hero understood that this was very bad. The Cyclops immediately jumped up and landed next to the child, furiously shouting at him, but then he began to swing his hand to strike to end this once and for all. But as soon as the cycle swung, our hero shouted whether he thought he could allow him to do this. And then, during the blow, our hero landed in front of the baby, literally protecting him with his body. And as soon as the kid turned around, he saw that the same guy was standing and protecting him from Cyclops. The damage to our hero was very serious, but the only thing he told the guy was to run, and as soon as possible, because he wouldn't be able to move anymore. Meanwhile, the Cyclops again began to concentrate energy near his eye to strike. He continued to say that the baby should run because he was sure he was a very strong guy. And the kid literally said, well, in tears, because he will fight to the end because he saved him. Thank God the baby was able to overcome his fear and start running away from Cyclops. To which our hero, looking at the Cyclops, I only thought that the baby was doing well, but in the meantime, a huge accumulation of energy was discovered, and he was advised to immediately retreat. To which our hero, I just asked forgiveness from the armor of the abyss, because it looks like he won't get out of it this time. And within a moment, the cycle would have shot its study directly at our hero, causing him to literally pierce the house and then the wall. Having flown into one of them, he only thought that it was incredible power. After all, despite the fact that they had the same level, the difference in strength was too great. But then suddenly our hero was also recommended to use healing potions immediately, and our hero, I completely forgot about him. But as soon as he pulled himself up to the waist, he realized that he had run out of them. It was empty, but she immediately noticed that not far away he had lost one of them during the impact. Trying to reach with his hand, he realized that he needed to quickly reach it. After all, he had to be healed. But then suddenly something began to happen, and our hero did not understand where he was, thinking that perhaps the village had already been destroyed. But it is also useful for him to think that if he recovered, he could save her. Literally within himself, he asked for someone to help him. And then suddenly someone began to pour the potion into our hero's mouth. It was a girl who was able to pick up the potion and began to help the guy. And as soon as our hero woke up, the girl was happy about it. The guy stood up a little and asked who she was, and the girl introduced that her name was Lara and that she was born and raised in this village. And that's why she also wants to protect her, because she is an ordinary village girl. But in the meantime, our hero understood that everything was not over yet since the Tsepkop was very close. And the girl immediately began to tell the guy to get up quickly because he had to return to the battle after all. Besides, in truth, she was a video. How he fights to protect this village, and everyone, these people also want to protect this village. And despite everything, she is very grateful to him, just like everyone else living in this village. The girl extended her hand to our hero and told him to run away from here as quickly as possible. But what our hero understood was that he couldn't do this because he was the only one in the village who could defeat this monster, and that was the only reason. But the girl also said that if he loses to this monster, then no one will be able to save the village and it will be completely destroyed. Therefore, he needed to avoid meeting this monster until his wounds were completely healed. Found our hero understood perfectly well that his whole body hurt, and it looked like he should rest a little more before he could fight at full strength. But the Cyclops didn't care, and he was already very close to our hero and the girl, planning to continue the fight, to which the girl extended her hand and only told our hero that they needed to leave quickly. Our hero, I perfectly understood this was mine, so grabbing the girl by the hand, they began to run away from the Cyclops, who I also continued to chase them. And around one of the turns, the girl called our hero to run right after her. But besides, while they were running away, the guy asked the girl how she knew his name, to which the girl replied that he is very popular in this village. To which our hero asked, is he popular as a scavenger? And as soon as the girl heard this, she immediately stopped and said that of course this is the same, but she thinks that he is a hero arc. And when the werewolves attacked the village, she was there too. Our hero, I remember these same werewolves, I was a little surprised, but the girl continued talking, that this is why she believes that he can save their village. To which our hero extends his hand and said that a girl named Lara will definitely destroy this monster. And of course the girl will save their village as soon as she hears her smile shining. But suddenly, our hero and the girl heard strange sounds. It was screams. And as soon as our hero and the girl looked out from behind the wall, they saw that the man was pulling the girl, shouting that they needed to take them away quickly. So far, our hero I just watched as the men tried to take the girl away to put her in one of the carts, to which the man immediately said that they should hurry because soon the monster will get here, and even if they openly take them away, no one will ever stop them because the time has come to earn extra money. Our hero, I was near the wall and didn't understand why this was happening right now, but still, I looked out from under the wall. He made the decision that he would deal with them. But turning back, he asked the girl to be here for now, but what he saw shocked him. After all, one of the men was already holding the girl in his arms, and the guy was shocked. Looking at the girl, who was very scared, he was worried about her. The man was holding a girl in his hands, only I said that if he doesn't want this girl to get hurt, then he should drop the weapon as soon as possible. To which our hero understood perfectly well that in this situation he could not do anything and should only do what this man said. And after a while, together with the girl and our hero, the man showed one of their main ones. To which the man, as soon as he returned, asked who else they were. And didn't he say that they didn't need men? But then he noticed the girl, saying that she was very beautiful, examined her from all sides, and he considered her a good product. After all, he was sure that they could sell it for a high price. But then our hero began to sharply say that they should listen because how could they have the audacity to do such things while the village was in danger? You know, that the man just laughed and said that he doesn't care what happens to this village. After all, they originally came to this village to take everything that was here. They were very lucky that they didn't destroy them all. Well, our hero got very angry from such words because he considered him a very bad person. To which the man just laughed and said that he was very scared, but then coming closer he asked if he was an adventurer. After all, what a pity he even has the power to do nothing with them. To which the man immediately thought that it was time for him to move forward and should be more careful with the girl because they don't want this guy to interfere. To which our hero understood perfectly well that if he is given just 1 second and as soon as the opportunity arises, he will immediately save Lyra. But then a knife suddenly appeared and was pointed at one of the men who was holding the girl. But one of the main ones immediately turned around and shouted at him to stop. It was a girl who ran towards the man and our hero. As soon as he saw her, immediately shouted her name. But the man managed to sharply avoid the girl, who immediately flew head first. But as soon as the girl fell and the man only said that she was too tough, he couldn't beat him like that. To which the girl said that she didn't mean to, because she was simply just bait. Meanwhile, our hero, I was already very close to the man behind him. With a quick and strong attack, he was able to defeat the man. And meanwhile, the girl fell into the arms of our hero. And as soon as he lowered her to the floor, he immediately asked the girl to hide. And that same villain, I began to order that they destroy him and be on the alert. Therefore, a large number of robbers immediately literally took out the balls and directed it towards our hero. Our hero, I asked if they were sure of what he would do. After all, he clearly didn't want to hold back. To which the man said with the finger of our hero that if he thinks that they will be afraid, then he is very mistaken because he is simply pretending that there is a hero. To which the guy said that he was warning for the last time whether they wanted to give up because there would be no more such warnings. To which the robbers immediately rushed to attack, and our hero, I understood their decision because I remember how that guy said that he cannot defeat him because he is too tough. Our hero said the same thing, that they couldn't defeat him. After all, their level difference was too big. And literally a moment later, our hero, I absorbed a lot of levels because he was able to easily destroy everyone who was in his way. And the man just looked at him and asked what he was, because adventurers are not as fast as him. To which our hero replied that to his great regret, he is an unusual adventurer, but the very last one. And it was he who said that he was level 200. To which the man just stood up and began shouting that he would destroy him. And this was probably the biggest mistake in his life, since our hero literally destroyed him in one blow. But then suddenly our hero received a message that he had level 250, and the owner had reached the maximum level for a person. Only now he began to understand that 250 level is the maximum level a person can achieve. After all, he didn't think that there could be a level limit, but he had never heard of adventurers with such a high level. And while our hero was thinking about this, Lara suddenly ran out hugging the guy and said that he saved them, and she was very grateful to him. To which our hero replied that he would never leave her. After all, she saved him when she appeared with a potion. If not for her, then that monster would have killed him a long time ago. To which the girl immediately said that after what he did, and now he is her real hero. But our hero, I still thought that he was not worthy of such a person. I am bad, but still. If he had left them alive, they could have destroyed other villages, and these thoughts were constantly spinning in his head, and he understood that he could not leave them if they did not have life. And the girl immediately said that it was not his fault, because there was no guilt in this, since he took their lives from him to save all these people. Therefore, he did not need to reproach himself for this, because he did everything right. Therefore, he is a hero. And our hero also said a big thank you, because now he felt better. What's better, another girl came running and said that all the people caught were sent home. And our hero, turning around, only said that Mila, a great fellow, to which the girl also said that she was very glad that she could help, because while he was fighting, she could only watch and therefore could not help. She immediately suggested that next time they fight together, to which our hero said that no, everything was really all right. But then the Cyclops suddenly appeared, and our hero said that they both had better hide quickly. Since our hero, I was able to reach level 250, he will be able to cope with that monster. I understand that now he can defeat him, and this monster is quite easy. To which the Cyclops quickly moved towards our hero in large leaps. And a moment later, a Cyclops appeared behind one wall, and I jumped out towards our hero. I literally exploded with the wind. And a moment later, our hero, I met the gaze of the Cyclops and said that he had finally come because he would finish him off. But turning around, he told the girls that it was time for you to quickly hide, to which they did not argue and turned around and began to run away as far as possible. And our hero, I again said the same phrase that I said earlier, that he asked for forgiveness for running away during their last meeting because now he doesn't intend to run away. He wanted to end this by destroying the Cyclops once and for all. Although on the same side, the monster was also fiercely determined to finish off the guy who had been bothering him all this time. But as soon as our hero took the first step, he began to talk about the fact that before he couldn't even wield a sword, since his level was so weak that he could use the most ordinary knife, powers in his hand in a bag where he put everything he could get. And then he swung his sword for the first time to save his life when, for the first time, he encountered a monster of a level that was much larger than that of our hero. This is the Goblin Lord. And now he is fighting to protect his homes. After all, I remember everyone who was close to him and even those who were not close, and whom he simply saved. He understood that he needed to end this once and for all, saying that he uses the sword to meet the expectations of his friends. And the Cyclops should be better prepared because now he is in his own skin, will feel the blow of a person that has surpassed human limits. And unfortunately, the Cyclops did not understand what was going on, and he still decided to attack our hero. But if earlier it was difficult for our hero, now literally in one fell swoop, he was able to repel the Cyclops' attack. They say that his attacks are useless against him. But then he began to counterattack the Cyclops, throwing him away from himself. And our hero, without much difficulty, was able to knock down Klopp in literally one blow. But he, in turn, was able to get up, and he immediately began to concentrate energy again near his eye to strike. And our hero above again received a warning that an incredible accumulation of energy was recorded, to which he in turn said that no one should worry since there are no problems with this. Since in this world the level decides everything, from the Cyclops of the Abyss was level 200, but our hero had a level of 250. The Cyclops immediately tried to make an attack with his energy, which he had accumulated near his eye. To which our hero, I only raised the sword. I said that therefore it did not matter what he would do. Literally tearing apart his sword attack, he was able to defend himself without any problems, saying that he cannot win if the difference in their levels is so great. Having met the gaze of both the Cyclops and our hero, I looked at each other intently, but the only thing our hero understood was what would happen next. Because as soon as he saw the fear in his eyes, he also asked what was the matter. Was he really scared? After all, he felt strong when he destroyed the villagers, but this time it was his turn to be trampled. And the look of our hero was very furious. But the look of the Cyclops did not correspond to what our hero had seen earlier. I said that we shouldn't be so surprised because in this world the level decides. And as soon as our hero I said this, he immediately rushed like this, but apparently Tenacious still didn't fully understand everything, and he tried to counterattack with his hand. Our hero immediately began to attack the Cyclops, inflicting numerous blows on him. Let's go to the head of the Cyclops. The only thing I tried was to concentrate the energy near my eye again and make an attack. To which our hero I said that he was going without realizing it because then he would show him what real despair is. And the Cyclops, of course, shot her self-energy towards our hero. But even through what he saw, he was very much amazed because his look changed very much. Because he saw that what was left from the beam was still a silhouette that continued to stand in one place. And as soon as the smoke cleared, they showed our hero, who simply raised his hand, saying that now perhaps he understood what the difference between them was. And only at this moment the Cyclops simply lowered his head literally first, accepting it, but then he immediately stood up and began screaming again in a wild voice. He immediately tried to attack the guy, but apparently did not understand how big the difference was between them. Although he became much angrier and began to attack faster while trying to get into school. But he wouldn't have succeeded because our hero eye was too fast. And as soon as he flew up, he immediately attacked the Cyclops' hand with his sword and jumped away from him. He saw how the Cyclops was holding on to the extreme hand. He immediately said that it was time for them to finish. He should get on his knees immediately. Cyclops immediately began to show strong energy in his eyes from exhaustion, to which our hero I only told him to stop kicking. And he in turn fell, and our hero I decided to take advantage of this moment by saying that he had caused him pain with subtle people and it was time to pay the bills to the demon. So he immediately attacked the Cyclops, and fortunately this was the last attack of our heroes before the destruction of the Cyclops. But in the meantime there was no way to absorb the level since our hero I was the maximum level for a person, but he gained access to new capabilities of the armor of God and received the skill of converting levels. The skill allowed one to go beyond human limits. It was recommended to use this skill wisely. And the very next day in the village, all the citizens went out to clean up and build because a lot of buildings were damaged. Someone told someone that they should take the wood there, but that same wood was held by a young guy who suddenly tried to slip on a stone. And as soon as he began to fall, a hand suddenly appeared, and he was very surprised. But this hand turned out to be our hero, who I didn't let my boyfriend get in. I just told him to be careful because it was very dangerous. Despite our hero, the boy thanked him for helping him. And already near our hero's tree, she was talking about what the transformation of levels means. And he also received a response from his armor that with the help of the level conversion skill, absorption of levels, he can transform them into a new unique skill. And as soon as our hero heard about the new unique skills that he could transform, he was a little shocked. Since unique skills have various useful effects, such as increased speed or resistance to fire, and this is a good bonus for adventurers, and get experience points, and by increasing the level you can get them with a very low probability. Only now our hero began to understand that he could not receive experience points. Therefore, unique skills were not available to him, thinking that in exchange for the level he can receive rare unique skills. But he was still only interested in one thing, this armor of the abyss. What is it? But in addition, our hero was recommended to get the skill of breaking the limit at the beginning. Breaking the limit allows you to get an unlimited number of levels, and the price was 240 levels. Our hero, as soon as he heard about the price, realized that this meant the number of levels that could be paid. After all, he now has level 250. If he buys it now, he will lose almost all the levels. But if you think so, then he simply needed this skill. So our hero, I decided that he would buy it, and the armor said that to purchase a skill it was necessary to name a code phrase, and the name of the desired skill, the code phrase, was a request for purchase. So our hero immediately said that he was requesting for purchase, and then said that this skill had broken the limit, and immediately it was accepted and the transformation of levels was carried out. Something incredible began to happen. The golden sacred seemed to envelop our hero, and all levels began to leave him. And this could be seen from the entire village, wherever it was. But suddenly something began to happen because the current literally hit our hero's chest. But literally in an instant the transformation was completed and the skill of breaking the limit was obtained, To which our hero was very surprised. He did not understand what kind of feeling it was, as if his consciousness had expanded. Thus, the limit of the human level was exceeded. In other words, he is now a being that is superior to man. And our hero, hearing this, was very happy that he was superior to man. But looking at the sky, he only thought that just recently he had been a delivery worker, and now he had covered such a long distance. But then suddenly someone came into the city, and they say that he overcame such a path while passing. He only thought that the monster had been destroyed. After all, he became very angry when he thought that he had just wasted his time. Besides, the adventurer who defeated this demon was probably still in the village. And in the meantime, the maximum level was increased, and 200 levels were awaiting absorption and were provided to the owner. Our hero completely forgot that at that very time. He couldn't swallow the Cyclops level. Thus, our hero's level increased to 210. He immediately thought that although he had lost almost all his levels to transform equations, now he could calmly fight monsters, and also understood that he must now get as many unique skills as possible, because unique skills were very valuable, and if he could get as many of them as possible, then he can become the strongest adventurer in the world. But he needed to think and consider further plans for how he would act, and while he was thinking, suddenly he heard someone approaching behind him. It was Lyra, who immediately attacked our hero, hugging him. The girl immediately said that she had been looking for him everywhere because after yesterday's victory over the monster, chaos began in the village, and she could not find him anywhere. Our hero also asked for forgiveness. After all, yesterday he helped residents put out fires. But then Mila suddenly appeared and said that Lyra was very worried about him. But she was also, of course, worried about him. And our hero, I have already told two girls that he is glad that everything is okay with them. The girl immediately said that she was very grateful to him and grateful to him for this. But then suddenly the girl said that it was just gratitude and kissed our hero's cheek. And then she lowered her head and said that she loved. And without waiting for anything in response, she immediately began to run away in embarrassment, saying that she would already go. But as soon as our hero realized this, he was very surprised and shocked, to which the man said behind his back that it looks like spring has finally come to the guy. Because our hero, I immediately began shouting at them to quickly leave here. He only began to think about the fact that someone fell in love with him. After all, before he couldn't dream of such a thing, but they understand what he should do now. And I also recommended that he behave like a man, and our hero, I just furiously shouted at him to shut up. And a few days later we were shown adventurers who were looking at the city in the distance, thinking that it seemed they had already arrived at the place. But looking at the village, it looked more like a wasteland, thinking that they were really late. But one of the guys said that maybe not, because she could have been attacked by another monster. After all, they also thought perhaps it wasn't even the fire dragon, because there would be nothing left of the village. And perhaps this was true, in which case they need to ask the locals about this attack. After all, no matter what happens, they must prevent the attack of this dragon. Therefore, one of the main adventurers ordered everyone to move into the city, and they began to enter the city in a large group. And we were talking about the very dragon that was inside the cave where our hero received the armor of the abyss. And meanwhile, in one of the forests, our hero was hunting monsters by throwing his knives at them. I understand that he hit it, and it was excellent. His level was first, since in recent days he has acquired many unique skills. The first skill was poison coating. Even though it cost 200 levels, it was knife poisoning. This skill allowed him to apply deadly poison to his weapon, and with it he could deal with small monsters. The second skill was knife throwing, and with this skill I lost all levels. But with this skill he could defeat monsters without direct confrontations. But the only drawback of poisons was that it took some time before the monster died. After all, even at level 1 he could quickly regain his combat strength. After all, he felt when the levels came to him, and he understood that another monster was destroyed, and with each level of absorption it happened quite quickly, and the level of our hero was 41. And he immediately thought that he would spend it on new skills. And thus he requested the purchase of an enhancement of the poison. Although this skill cost 40 levels, he didn't care and acquired the skill. He understood that now the monsters would be destroyed much faster than before, but besides, that was enough for today. Because now about 20 monsters must be poisoned by his knives, and he thinks in a couple of hours he will be at level 200 again. So he decided that enough was enough, and it was time for him to return back to the village. But as he approached, he noticed a group of people. I asked them what happened, and then one of the guys turned around. It was Ein. His level was 120, and he was a representative of the Adventurers Guild. He asked our hero if he was also an adventurer, so he immediately asked if he wanted to join. But what he saw upset him a little, because he saw that the guy had the first level, and he openly said that his level was too low. Everyone immediately began to say that he was at the first level, and perhaps he was a beginner. But our hero is so wonderful that this was the expected reaction. And the guy continues to say that he probably wants to become an adventurer, to which our hero, I said that he had already become one a long time ago, and the guy would be surprised to hear about what happened a long time ago. The other guy started laughing and asking why he's on the first level. Then Leonia doesn't joke about how he's been up for a long time. But then the guy stopped, asking him to hold on because it couldn't be that he had heard rumors about him. He immediately said that he was the weakest adventurer in history. He said that he is called a scavenger. To which our hero, I asked with a very intent look that it is so, but what if they have a problem with this? Our hero immediately turned his gaze to the guy askew. Perhaps something is wrong. But after thinking a little, he said that they had received a task from the guild to hunt, since recently many special demons were discovered in these lands, and it was a level 150 Black Dragon Mighty Monster. And it is impossible to defeat this monster alone. So he assembled a group of adventurers with unique skills, and in this way they hoped to defeat this dragon, and he need not worry. Well, the guy immediately extended his hand and said that they had not introduced themselves yet, and his name was Ein, to which our hero said that his name was Ark. I thought that he could cope with level 150 alone. Although he immediately thought about the black dragon, remembering the very dragon that was in the depths of the cave, was it really him? And while our hero was thinking, suddenly one of the guys came running and turned to one of the senior adventurers, to which he did not understand what was happening and what was happening. And the guy immediately began shouting that the scouts had discovered a dragon. After all, they had no doubt that it was he. I'm the same level 150 black dragon. The guy immediately said that he understood, and they immediately headed towards him. Turning around, he told everyone that they had discovered the targets of their mission, and everyone should get ready, to which our hero perfectly understood that the group's level was approximately 120. Although some of them have unique skills against a dragon with level 150, it will be difficult for them, and he cannot leave them like that. So I immediately shouted to the guy to take him with them. After all, the monster that he poisoned should soon die, and he will be able to raise the level to 200, and there should be no problems with this level. But the guy immediately said that no, it was too dangerous for him, and he did not realize the seriousness of the situation. Our hero did not have time to say anything right there. I saw these glances that accompanied him, and they also said how a guy with the first level could help them. There was no place for weaklings. But then one of the guys suddenly came out looking at our hero and immediately said, "What?" It seems that the leader treated him very gently. After all, they already said directly that he was a weakling. And a group of adventurers began to move towards where the black dragon was seen without our hero, but still understood that at this rate they would all die. But with his current level, they really couldn't help them, and there was nothing to do about it. So he decided that he would wait for the levels to come and then catch up with them. But after a while, when the adventurers arrived at the place, they did not understand what it was. After all, no one warned them about this. After all, they understood perfectly well that this was not a level 150 black dragon. It was impossible. It was some kind of joke. But it definitely wasn't a black dragon, and this is a dragon calamity rank monster wreaking havoc on all the black dragons. World Destroyer level 300. It was the Black Dragon Emperor, Destroyer of Worlds. Since his level was 300, and only now they decided that he should retreat. After all, they could not cope with him. The guy immediately tried to ask for help from the guild. But the dragon then simply did not want to let them go, so with his tail he immediately knocked the guy off his feet. And as soon as our hero arrived and at the video of the dragon, he realized that the battle had already begun. Despite him, he thought that he was definitely from your damn cave. After all, perhaps then he was only pretending. But he still realized that now was not the time for thinking and guessing, since the dragon was already concentrating energy to strike. And our hero asked the armor of the abyss how long it would take for him to get monster levels, to which he immediately received the answer that he would have to wait about 30 seconds. And approaching the dragon, he only tried to repeat that the levels would come as quickly as possible. At some point, our hero, I realized that it had finally happened, since there was confirmation of the death of monsters from poison and the level was increased. Thus, our hero's level was already 201. But immediately our hero responded to a request to acquire resistance to fire. And within a moment, the dragon began to attack everyone who was in its path. But our hero still managed to acquire the skill, and stopping began to repel the dragon's attack. Turning around the guy, he asked if he was the only one left, to which he was very shocked because he was able to stop the Destroyer of Worlds, but no one understood why. Why are they standing there eating and the scavenger is not even wounded? To which our hero said that this is all because he is much stronger than them, but even with such strength, he cannot save them all, and he had to be decisive. And as soon as our hero finished speaking, the same guy who called him a weakling just asked for forgiveness and fell. which angered our hero quite a lot, but no matter how much he became, he could never save people, and for the sake of the adventurers who died, he will defeat him here and right now. To which the dragon had a completely different opinion, and he immediately tried to attack the guy. But our hero turned around and said that they shouldn't worry. After all, our hero, I was easily able to stop the dragon's attack, saying that such weak fire cannot hurt him. At which the dragon became quite angry because he did not expect such impudence, and the guy understood that his fire attacks would no longer work, and in order to gain resistance to fire he had to spend most of the levels. Therefore he still did not fully understand how he could win, since her level was 21. Therefore he understood perfectly well that he needed to somehow raise his level. In the meantime, he was thinking about how to raise the dragon's level, and had already launched an attack without fire. Our hero understood that he decided to use physical attacks instead of fire breath. After all, he understood perfectly well that they would withstand his attacks at this level. But then suddenly something happened. Turning around, he only heard the voice that said that he was very disappointed. And at that moment, the dragon was literally cut in half and fell. Our hero, I would be surprised how it was possible to defeat a dragon with one blow. And a guy appeared on the dragon's back and asked who he was. But he smiled and said that his name was Baldar, the only one on the entire continent. Disaster rank adventurer. And as soon as our hero heard about the rank of disaster, he was very surprised. To which the guy stood up and said that he also saw him for the first time. But then he continued to say that he is the owner of incredible strength, a man about whom he makes up legends, because he stands above all people and no one can reach the same level. He is the one who is head and shoulders above all the adventurers. That's what the rank of disaster means. Baldar immediately said that he was well aware of it. And as soon as I saw the hero's level 300, and the disaster rank adventurer's unique skill of breaking the limit, he immediately realized that he was without a doubt higher than any person. And also the Vesti told him that the target was confirmed to have the skill of breaking the limit from birth, and he was the complete opposite of our hero with zero experience, and that meant that he came to help them. But here you are, the guy suddenly sat down and asked again about help, and also asked what kind of nonsense, addressing the adventurer in black armor, because of him all his plans collapsed. But our hero didn't understand what plans he was talking about, and he noticed, didn't he hear what they were saying about him in the village? Heroes in black armor who single-handedly defeated the demon. And he was wondering whether these rumors were true, but he was very disappointed. But then suddenly the dragon literally came to life and began to roar, to which Baldar immediately threw his sword right at his head. Speaking of the fact that don't you see that they are talking here? And the guy also continued to say, did they know that the destroyer of worlds would be restored until its magical core was destroyed? Our hero was surprised that he could recover, to which the guy immediately said that he once killed him in some cave with goblins. And as soon as our hero heard, he immediately remembered that it was his doing. But then he continued to say that, however, he did not destroy the core and simply left it to die in that cave. He will also continue to say that the monster that devoured his flesh very quickly evolved and became more ferocious. After all, the destroyer of worlds is too powerful and would not leave a trace of the village. He needed a monster, and the one-eyed one was perfect for him. Saying that they were probably thinking why he did this, he immediately said that the first step was to set the monster on the village and then kill him and present himself as a hero. But the second step was to kill this dragon again and become the strongest. As a result, he received limitless power and also rushes into the whole wide world. However, he immediately said that he ruined everything with his finger on our hero. To which our hero immediately said that he allowed the monster to attack the village because of such a trifle as glory. To which the man said that he was a fool because someone like him needed power, glory, money, and everything that was possible. After all, anyone who has power can only live as he lives. And our hero immediately began to talk about how he was a real fool and a real idiot for the sake of his stupid desires. A lot of residents were injured as well. A lot of good adventurers died in the battle against the dragon, and he thought about it even for a second. Raising his sword, he immediately asked the armor of the abyss to lend him its strength, saying that the time has come to bring one asshole down to earth. Well, the guy immediately started laughing, saying that perhaps he wanted to teach him a lesson, but he immediately said not to overestimate himself, to which our hero understood perfectly well that he was level 300. If he starts fighting now, he won't have a single chance since our hero's level was 21, however. His gaze drew attention to the very core that the dragon was talking about. He understood perfectly well that the dragon's core was now vulnerable. If he destroyed it, the armor could absorb his level, and the dragon's level was 300. So he immediately asked Success if there was a skill for long-range attacks that he could acquire now, to which the search immediately began to be carried out, and there were a few seconds before it was completed. But then the guy sharply asked why he had already gotten up and was he ready to fight, swinging his sword towards our hero. Well, he also said that it was too late to beg for mercy. And having made an attack between our hero and the guy, he literally threw them away from him at some distance. And at the place where our hero flew off, I began to think that this is incredible power and this is what the rank of disaster means. And the guy also began to say that he must be crazy because this is the end for him. Our hero understood that this could all end very badly, but in the meantime the search was completed. And our hero was recommended to acquire the skill. Small grenades. Small grenades are endowed with weapons of small explosive power, and their cost was 20 levels. But our hero didn't understand how this could help him because he wouldn't be able to destroy the core if he tried to blow up his sword. So the armor also said that this was not required. But he was recommended to use it to increase his level, to which our hero, standing up, asked that this is all he is capable of. To which the man immediately got angry, saying that he could still stand, but nothing would help him since he couldn't even stand normally yet. But our hero immediately submitted a request to purchase small grenades. But as soon as our hero's chest literally began to glow, the men did not understand what he was doing and what he was doing, but he in turn prepared for the attack, saying that now everything will change. And as soon as he threw the knives, the man began to laugh with a knife with poison. Turning away from the attack, he asked what kind of children's games these were. After all, what is the point of them if they did not reach the goal? To which our hero said that maybe they would not harm him. However, he was aiming, not into him at all, but into something else. The man turned around and saw that one of the knives hit me right in the center of the core, and our hero immediately shouted that they should explode. And immediately an incredible illumination and explosion began to occur in the center of the core, and our hero understood that with these destroyers the world had finally come to an end. But what began to happen next surprised the man very much because he did not understand what kind of sacred thing it was. But in the meantime, our hero's absorption level and owner level were higher, and he had already returned to the attack. Having crossed swords, they are already at a sufficient level. But the man still didn't understand what the hell was going on. After all, he has everything as long as he's at level 21. To which our hero replied that it was so, but now everything is a little different because he is now level 301. And the man began to understand because he was wondering how he was able to defeat the monster, and he began to understand that it was all because of the damn abilities. But immediately counterattacked our hero, pushing him away from himself as far as possible, saying that he shouldn't joke with him because he's just one level higher. And does he think that he can cope with a catastrophe rank adventurer with vast combat experience? He immediately said that he didn't think so, trying to concentrate the attack towards our hero. But our hero was still able to dodge this attack, and the guy was surprised because he didn't understand how he was able to dodge. But our hero was not only able to dodge, but was also aiming to attack in response, which is exactly what he did. Although the guy did not defend himself, it was still not enough. And our hero began to say during the attack that no experience would help someone so greedy and immediate, because he never loses to anyone. And during the break between attacks, the guy realized that he had good armor, but he was talking all sorts of bullshit. The only advice he can give him is to shut up quickly and immediately activate the unique skill manifestation of the Bloody God. His energy and strength immediately began to change, and he became stronger than he was just a couple of minutes ago. He immediately began to attack our hero, saying that such is his strength. And our hero was surprised because he didn't think that this would be the case. To which the man also said that now he would never run away from him anywhere. And our hero understood that if he didn't dodge, then he would be finished. I remember, is this the very same Bloody God that he saw at the beginning of the list of unique skills that can only be used once, and its cost was the first level? Therefore, he immediately decided that he needed to be prohibited from purchasing, to which the man said that nothing would help him because this was the end for him. But for some reason, instead of attacking our heroes, he decided to attack the guy who was next to our hero. Why did he immediately fly off to a great distance? But the guy did not die. Standing up, he turned to our hero and said if he had immediately dealt with the destroyer, his friends would not have died. He also screamed because he was asking his friends for revenge. And our hero, I of course said that he would do it, and in the meantime began to request the purchase of Curse of the Black Armor. Our hero immediately requested the Curse of the Black Armor, but the man continued to attack towards our hero. And he was shown an announcement that the skill could only be used once, and he had to confirm the purchase request, thereby confirming this. And the request was approved. The cost of the skill varies from 1 to infinity. It is possible to pay extra for any number of levels. So our hero decided that he wanted to pay extra, and he also said that he wants to pay extra for 299 levels. As a result, it will be 300 levels, and the purchase request was accepted. Thus, the incredible began to happen, and a golden ray from the sky enveloped our hero. And then literally a moment later, our hero became level 1. And also the man didn't understand what he did here. And as soon as he opened the table, he was very shocked and laughed because he saw that his level was first, saying that now he definitely can't handle it. And also he is complete. I've never done this before. Well, our hero, I stood very confidently addressing the guy, saying that he couldn't defeat him. And then the curse of the black armor activation began to occur. And literally a moment later, the black power began to completely envelop the entire guy. After all, he did not understand what was happening since he was losing his strength. To which our hero, I said that this curse of black armor absorbs the opponent's level in proportion to the level spent. Curse of black armor absorbs the opponent's level in direct proportion to the cost of the cost level 1 plus A. Since our hero spent 299 levels, this means that he lost the same amount. So he immediately asked what he thought his level was now. To which he immediately began to say maybe he was joking, he should stop and let him go. Well, our hero, I said that now everything is quite simple, just like for him and for that guy. Will be the same for the first level. And as soon as the curse worked, the guy realized that it was impossible because it was complete nonsense. He screamed nonstop. You guys are just now starting to understand that he has the first level, and he realized that he had lowered his level and now he should have fun because he is an adventurer in disaster. And even with the first level, he can easily crush him. But while our hero was listening, he decided not to wait an attack. And then our hero said that in the village there was a Rakuru whose man was called a scavenger. He couldn't gain experience and couldn't level up, and shout for him to shut up. But our hero continued to say that he always had the first level. He said that, however, now he is invincible. After all, after everything he has experienced, he knows better than anyone how to win at the first level. The guy immediately screamed in pain, but nevertheless, leaning on his sword, he immediately said that nothing was over yet. To which our hero, I just turned around and said that everything was already over because he already understands which of them won. To which the guy did not want to accept defeat, and he immediately rushed onto our hero's back, trying to attack him. But our hero, I turned around and said that it seemed he had not stopped soberly assessing the situation. Turning around, he literally knocked the sword out of his opponent's hands in one blow. And he immediately said that it was really over, because now he decided to completely destroy it and at the same time attack. He did what he did not want. And our hero's opponent literally collapsed in a second. And a moment later, the same guy whose entire group died began to approach our hero. He immediately thanked our heroes for avenging them all. To which our hero, I said that there is no need for gratitude because he would never have forgiven him, so he would have defeated him even without his request, because he didn't want to accept his defeat. But then suddenly the guy began to talk about how when he destroyed his hand, he drove himself into a corner because he didn't want that. But soon another adventurer with the catastrophe class will know about it, because after that, if he stops showing any activity, it will seem suspicious to them and they will start looking for him, and they must always be so curious, because they will be interested in who defeated him and they will begin to hunt him because he is a dead black knight. Well, what about our hero? I said that if someone else challenges him, then he will definitely fight with them, no matter who it is. But then the guy said so that he should not waste all his strength in vain. But he also understood that he had lost a lot of blood and he needed to get out of here. And then the guy said that, see you soon to the Black Knight, but the other understood that he was teleporting. After all, at this rate, he will simply run away and he needs to be stopped, rather, which our hero, in fact, began to do, running straight to him. But he said that he should remember. It will make him regret not finishing him off right away. And as soon as he said this, he immediately began to teleport and literally disappeared out of the blue. But in response to the words about the fact that he didn't finish her off, our hero only thought that next time he would definitely destroy him. Approaching the guy, he said that he was still able to escape, but it was not clear to him what to do. After all, he would return for them with reinforcements. And our hero said that everything would be all right because it was time for him to get out of here himself. Because if he gets in his way again, he will definitely defeat him. And the guy said that he relies on him. But also our hero, I keep saying, after all, besides, they lost many in this battle. Therefore, the guy understood perfectly well that Ein had to report the affected guilds. But then suddenly our hero, I called the guy back and said that he had a very big request to him and could he listen to him. But after a while, the guy asked our hero if he was sure of this, to which he replied that he had already finally decided everything, and now they have already returned back to the village from which our hero was from. But the guy immediately said that when he decided to ask him for the services of such a strong adventurer like him, he expected any incredible request. But at the same time, he simply asked to be brought to another city, and he still knows how to surprise. And our hero replied that in fact he would like to continue helping the residents of this village and remain its protector. But he understood perfectly well that the attention of disaster-class adventurers would sooner or later, if he stayed here, then people like Baldar would find him. And he would really like to get ahead of them from such a thunderstorm, and the guy said that he understood everything perfectly, so he decided to listen to his request to the very end. saying that they coped with the destroyers of the world. And besides, he has already brought to the guild about the losses and about him a magical communication device. And since he is going to leave this village, he asked to send a couple of adventurers to protect the village, and it will be safe here for some time. Our hero immediately thanked the boy for such a gesture, but approaching the shop, our hero was surprised by the fact that it was closed. I'm thinking that apparently today is a day off, and the guy asked him if he wanted to talk to him so much. After all, what will they do now since they can talk and change the departure money? But what our hero said is that they can go because if he sees them, their non-conversion will be painful. And it was not only about grandfather, but he also didn't want to say goodbye to Mill and Leroy. After all, he will not forgive himself if they get hurt just because they got involved with someone like him. And after a while, our hero and the guy reached the exit from the village. And the guy immediately said that if he leaves the village now, he won't be able to return here soon. Won't he regret it? To which our hero also said that no, he wouldn't regret it, and before he even began to walk out, he heard a voice behind him. Turning around, he saw Grandpa, who asked our hero what is this sad expression on his face. Is he still going to leave since he accidentally found out that he was going on a trip? And therefore I decided to bake him bread for the road by giving him a package with bread inside. But then our hero sharply asked for forgiveness for the fact that he just decided to leave the village. But then, unexpectedly, Grandfather said that he should smile since he had decided to leave their village. Then he must have a good reason for this action. Since he is an adventurer and he has been watching him from the very beginning of his journey, at least let him say goodbye with a smile on his face. To which our hero, I just said, Grandpa immediately smiled. To which our hero smiles and says that he will already go. To which the guy also noticed that Grandfather was a very good person, to which our hero did not even intend and did not think to argue about this. And after walking literally a few meters, the boy looked at the bread. I immediately started eating it, to which the guy asked what farewell bread tastes like, and our hero replied that it was truly incredible and delicious. To which the guy suggested setting out on the road because first they need to look into the city where the guild is located, where that guy works, at the southern headquarters of the Durham Adventurers Guild. And remembering the girls, our hero understood that in this way he left his village, as at that moment one of the girls, P, apparently in the video that our hero was leaving, and immediately began to tell this to Lara. But on the way, when they were walking to one of the cities that he needed, they noticed that one of the carts was attacked by goblins of the 1st level, and also their non-leaders of goblins were of the 5th level. They immediately realized that the caravan of traveling merchants had been attacked, and they had to do something. To which our hero immediately said that perhaps the guy could support his things for a minute, to which he replied that of course he would do it, because now he wanted to improve his level before coming to the city. Destroying the goblins, he absorbed their levels with every second, and with each increase in level he became stronger and more powerful, to which even the guy, looking at our hero, understood that he couldn't wait for him to show his true strength. But having dealt with the goblins quickly enough and raised his level, our hero understood that this was great, and the next stop would be the southern city of Durham. And after some time, our hero and the guy were already standing at the entrance to the city they were going to. Our hero just saw this fuss. Oh, I would be very surprised because it was the southern city of Durham. The southern city was located northeast of our hero's village and is a large city on the southern part of the continent. As we passed, our hero only said that there were a lot of people, and the atmosphere of the city was radically different from the village. And this is not surprising. After all, Durham is one of the largest cities on the continent, and their headquarters is located in the center of the city, the southern branch of the Central Council of the Adventurers Guild, and its full name is the Southern Branch of the Central Light of the Adventurers Guild. After all, on the continent there are many guild headquarters with talented adventurers. The guy also told our hero that there are many talented adventurers like him in this headquarters, and against their background he should not have stood out much unless, of course, he raised his level again. After all, at the moment when they entered the southern city of DA, our hero's level was 110, but our hero also understood that if there is no need, there is no need to increase his level. To which our hero, I just thanked the boy for the advice. But in the meantime, he immediately said that on the way to the southern city, he increased his level a little, and the guy advised him to stop raising his level for now, and our hero didn't understand why it was worth doing this. And he himself explains that if his level is radically different from others, it will attract undue attention. After all, he can imagine the situation if he walks around with level 300, people will say that this is a new adventurer of the rank of disaster, or they will come up with something else. Our hero understood that if so, then he would really attract the attention of adventurers of the rank of catastrophe. But the guy continued to talk because there is still the fact that if everyone finds out that he is the same adventurer who defeated Baldar, many will want to make peace with him. and this will lead to even greater destruction. Since he hears that among the adventurers with the rank of catastrophe there are a lot of weirdos. Therefore, it is better not to attract the attention of strange personalities. And also an adventurer should stick together, they measure their strength. Since they are adventurers, are obliged to protect and preserve the peace and quiet of citizens. To which our hero, I listened very carefully, smiled, I understand that. Ein, a very talented adventurer and quite good, because he not only helped him, but also explains a lot of things. Since many adventurers only care about money and glory, so was Baldar. But he still wanted to become an adventurer as kind and fair as Ein. The fact that he has a high level does not mean anything because he must match this power and use it wisely. So our hero immediately asked the boy where they were going now, and then he just asked for forgiveness that they cared, and he never told him. Since they need to report on the destroyers of worlds, so first they will go to the guild headquarters, and soon after the guy and our hero approached the central council of the Adventurers Guild in the reception area, where the girl greeted the guys by asking what order they wanted to report on. Ein mission report via communicator, to which the girl said that if this is so, then she will now give him a reward. I immediately asked to name the name of the completed mission, but as soon as the guy said that it was an incident in the village of Rakuru, World Destroyers, everyone immediately fell silent and the girl was very shocked. Why our hero, I didn't understand what had happened, that they suddenly stopped everything. But the girl immediately turned around and asked them to wait because now she would bring them their reward. And throwing a bag of money on the table, the girl said that this was their reward for this mission. To which the girl said that since all the members of his group died, the entire reward was for the mission. Goes to the only survivor, that is Mr. Ein. And our hero only now understood what was going on because he was wondering why Ein was drooping all the way to this city. He understood that he felt guilty for being the only survivor of that massacre, and this tormented him very much. To which the girl said that he should accept her condolences, and the boy only thanked her for her understanding. But our hero didn't understand what she was talking about, asked the guy. To which he replied that all the members of his squad who died, every single one, and now, as a leader, he had to be responsible for their lives. But in the end, what does he think he will think about such a leader like him? After all, the guy understood that the rumors passed faster than he expected. He wouldn't want his problems to affect our hero, because he didn't understand how all people would be determined and insult the guy, saying that he should give this money to the families of the victims who relied on him, because someone like him should never have become a leader and he betrayed everyone who believed in him. And the guy also understood that he was obliged to meet with the friends and families of his fallen comrades and accept all their anger. After all, he commanded a detachment, and because of his mistake, all his comrades died. Therefore, no matter how sad and difficult it was for him, and no matter how he regretted what he had done, it doesn't change the fact that the guy was guilty. Everyone just continued to say how he is a useless leader because it was because of such people that their friends died, to which the guy, just looking at the crowd, replied that he takes full responsibility for what happened since he failed to save a single member of the group, and so they all died because of his mistakes. To which one of the guys immediately began to shout, no matter how much he would regret what he had done. After all, they were all the best adventurers, talking about the fact that their opponent was a level 150 flame dragon and how could they possibly lose to him. What does our hero mean with all this? Listen, I understood that they were mistaken because everything was not as they say. Level 300 world destroyers, and none of the adventurers were prepared to face such a destructive force. So our hero decided to stand up for the guy and shouted for them to listen. After all, they are mistaken, they collided with but did not have time to finish. The guy immediately said the name of our hero and began to say that he was grateful, that he was worried about him, but it was because of his mistakes that his squad B died. If he had, then he would have ordered the evacuation of all the villagers, then they would be able to escape death. But then someone from the crowd immediately began to ask our hero what he was saying. He immediately began to make his way from the crowd, saying that Ein, for the sake of your reward, decided to doom them to death. But then our hero abruptly came out and said that he would never do that. To which the man told him to shut up because he didn't want to hear the justification of strangers. And our hero replied that they are Stranger B. After all, they are together with Ein, destroyers of worlds of level 300. As soon as someone heard level 300, everyone immediately started talking. If it's true, it's not a miracle that they were returned alive, and they also needed someone to go to the guild and find out the details. But the man opening the statistics just waved his hand. I told them not to talk nonsense. After all, he saw that the guy was level 110. They say that it's surprising that they are on the same level since the man was also at level 110. And they also say that how did he survive against a level 300 monster with such a level? Our hero decided not to explain. He simply said that there were reasons for this. To which the man also laughed in wild choke, talking about the reasons and the fact that he was making it all up. He immediately told him to get out. Our hero looked straight into the man's eyes and only said that he should force her. I didn't immediately clash my swords, looking at each other angrily. Ein, looking at everything that was happening, immediately asked our hero to stop because it was all his fault since he could not save his comrades, and besides, he is a terrible leader. To which she, our hero, immediately said that this is not true because it's all his. Comrades died, and that was a fact, but besides, no one could have predicted such an outcome of events. Ein was with his comrades until the very end, even in the face of death. He did not run away and did not abandon his comrades, and besides, the one who arranged their death for the sake of a reward would never mourn his friends like that. That's why our hero said that he is not a bad leader at all. Since if Ein wants to take responsibility for the death of his comrades, then he will not object to this. It was wrong to take responsibility for everything that happened because much did not depend on him. And that's the only reason he wants to protect him from such thoughts. Our hero immediately said that Ein, he is a leader who, despite the situation, did not abandon his comrades and took revenge for them, but the guy was wondering why he was helping him. But that our hero, holding out her hand, told the guy that he is the ideal adventurer that he strives for. That's the whole reason why he helps him. But the guy didn't want to stop. He also raised it and said that it was the end of May. He immediately rushed at our hero along with the guy with an attack from behind. Luckily I saw this and immediately warned our hero to be careful. But then out of nowhere a man appeared who stopped the attacker. Just speak that he has finally returned, calling the name Ein. The man immediately said that he had finally returned. And the guy replied, yes, after all, he only recently arrived back in the city. But our hero raised his sword and said that a terrible aura was emanating from him, asking who he was. But the guy immediately asked our hero to let go of the sword and not point it at him. This is his colleague, the Supreme Adventurer of the Rescue Sword Guild, Mr. Jure, Supreme Adventurer Guild Sword Rescue Hero, level 200. To which our hero, looking at the man, said that now he understood that he was Ein's comrade. To the question, he must be Ark. To which he immediately said that he saved Ein in the battle against the Destroyer of Worlds, and not only did he save him, but they also defeated him together. But when the other guys heard this, they were immediately shocked. After all, they couldn't believe that they were able to defeat the Destroyer of Worlds. And besides, we also met this idiot Baldar, and our hero was surprised that he knew him because he needed to tell about everything that happened in the village. And the guy said that yes, he informed the central administration and the guildmaster about Baldar, since it was he who did not destroy the Destroyer of Worlds in his time, but thanks to Ark. They were able to destroy it, and all this would not have happened if Baldar had destroyed the core because he knew very well about it. Therefore, a reward was also assigned for his capture. After all, they arrived in the city quite recently, but the man also said that he was on an expedition and could not come to the aid of his group, and Ein reported to him about everything that happened after everything that happened, and as soon as he learned all the details, he arrived in Durham. And now, as soon as he returned, a bunch of idiots began to blame the detachment commander for the deaths of his comrades when they didn't delve into the situation and find out all the details. And besides, he understood the pain in the family and the victims and their friends. Since no words or money will bring her back to life, but they are adventurers and they are obliged to preserve the peace and tranquility of citizens. And every time they risk their lives for the benefit of others. In addition, they knew what they were doing when they stopped as adventurers, and such was their fate. Otherwise, what they are doing is shifting responsibility onto others, to those who fought with his loved ones until the very end. He immediately said that with this they ended the conversation about this campaign, but our hero immediately asked the guy if he was a good person. Ein immediately said that he shouldn't doubt it, but there was one small problem. He is a very healthy person. Therefore, the men turned around sharply and told Ein that he was expelling him from the guild. And after this, our hero, I was very surprised because he did not understand what was happening. At the same time, Ein literally stood adamantly and looked at the commander. The man also said that although he resolved this misunderstanding, his incompetence cannot be justified. Since the leader who doomed the entire team to death is a man with such a past in one of the strongest guilds in Durham, he cannot leave the Sword of Salvation. Our hero, I heard about the strongest guild in the city. I didn't understand how first class it was. But the man will also continue to say that unfortunately he has no other choice. Beautiful. Does he have an objection to his decision? The guy immediately answered no, but besides, he would like to ask him for something. The man also asked what he wanted to ask for, and Ein immediately said that he wants Ark to be accepted in the Sword of Salvation, since if he can find an ally in the guild, he will be able to achieve a lot in the future, benefiting the city. Thinking that even though they knew him but Arka, there are all prospects of becoming a first-class adventurer. The man immediately thought about it, said that he understood him, but abruptly Our hero, I said what N and why. Since let and Ina, inevitable and expelled from the guild, but saying that he would never join a guild that abandons his own comrades. Ein immediately asked our hero to calm down because if he joins the guild, he will be able to enlist support from different people. Moreover, he himself wanted to actively help others. He needed to join the guild. And our hero, I thought sharply about what he said was necessary, having decided that then he would create it himself, because he would create a guild with his own hands without any help. And already with time passing through the city, our hero and a guy stopped near some building, and our hero immediately looked up and looked at him, asked if this is a place that will suit them, to which the guy, smiling, said that this is exactly it, because this is where the history of his guild will begin, saying that this is their immediate base. And he would also like to say, "Thank you very much for inviting him to your guild." Our hero just looked at the guy and smiled because he was glad that he was enjoying such little things here. Our hero announced the creation of his own guild, and immediately after the exclusion of Ein, he became the first member of the new guild, which the man looked at very intently, although besides he still has a lot to learn from him, to become an excellent adventurer like him, and he will be very happy to receive any advice on this matter, and at least they now have their own base. But they still understood that they would have to rebuild it from scratch since it was destroyed, to which the guy immediately said that they are not officially a guild yet, and they don't have much money. Since they had to give most of the money to buy this building, so they have very minimal money. Since their reward for the destruction of the Destroyer of Worlds, most of it was given to the family and those who died in the same expedition. And our hero thought that his money and Ein's money should be enough for everything, but he miscalculated a little. And then you open the closet. A large enough clot of dust will immediately pour it towards our hero. And as soon as all the dust was on the Ein guy, he immediately started laughing because it was quite funny. But still, our hero understood that with the remaining money, they bought this building in order to open their own guild, and they were doing badly. But having taken all the attributes for cleaning, they decided that they would start general cleaning right now. But before our hero even had time to do anything, I slipped and fell on the floor, wetting myself with water and a mop. And he immediately laughed, saying that when he received this armor, his whole life turned into a battlefield, but he also missed such peaceful money very much. But then suddenly 2 legs appeared in front of the entrance to the building that our hero bought together with the guy to open a guild. And as soon as the door opened, I immediately heard forgiveness for the trouble outside. Well, what they saw in front of their door they did not expect. After all, they did not understand how this was possible since there was a... Mila and Lara stood next to her. The girls immediately began to say that he couldn't get rid of them so easily because he left and didn't even say goodbye. They immediately rushed to our hero, hugging him. But in my head, some kind of panic suddenly began, and one of the guards shouted that he had an urgent mission, since if there are free adventurers, they should head to the western gate of the city. Because better than the monsters appeared outside the western gate. But as soon as the knights ran to the place, they were shocked by what they saw in front of them. It was a monster that looked very fierce, and it looked not only fierce, but also very strange, and was not small in size. The girls immediately asked who did they just take and leave the village. After all, they are waiting for an explanation from him. Our hero literally just began to say something very confused suddenly. Some voices were heard behind the door, and it was the alarm that one of the adventurers shouted said that a crowd of monsters had appeared at the western gate, and all adventurers who heard him should urgently come to the western gate. Our hero turned around looking at the guy. Even without words, he made it clear that they needed to go. And the guy had the same opinion because he also believed that it was time for them to move to the western gate. Standing up our hero, I told the girls the reason why he decided to attack the village a little later. In the meantime, they must wait for them here and under no circumstances go outside. Turning around, our hero began to walk around Ein. It's time for them. After all, this is not their first mission as a new guild. At the same time, the adventurers who were near the gates did not understand where this huge monster appeared so suddenly at the gates of the city. Raymonster's was 210, and the same guy who met with our level 110 hero began to fight with skeletons whose level was 20. Literally in one movement he destroyed the skeleton and said that he was no match for him since their level was very different. Well, there is already more than one enemy A3 lined up, and the guy immediately said that if they think they will take him for hours, then they are very mistaken. He immediately rushed into battle. Why, in fact, this battle did not last so long since the man was able to destroy them literally in one blow. But then he asked another knight where old Jireh was walking, but what did he say that he sent his father for him, but he still did not come? The guy understood that things were bad for them. After all, if so, they would have to go into battle without him. Meanwhile, the monster was already standing quite close to the man who only turned around and saw what? the monster literally released some unknown balls, and one of the balls also grabbed the man, literally enveloping him completely, just like the other adventurers of the city. The adventurers immediately began to complain about their bodies as if they did not and could not move at all, and that the man understood that this attack did not bring any harm, however. It was a desert curse spell, as the curse slowly destroys a person's body, starting with a simple numbness. If under the pressure of the spell for too long, they will all die. They all understood perfectly well that they could feel a single muscle, and at such a pace this monster would destroy them. But then suddenly our hero flew into battle and destroyed one of the skeletons, thereby absorbing its level. Said that it was time for them to increase their level together with his partner, to which he said that under these circumstances he may not even hold back but destroy everything in his path with maximum force. And after some time destroying all the monsters, our hero reached level 250, and at that moment the guy told him to leave the skeletons to him, since he will cover him and he should deal with the monster. And our hero, I understood this perfectly well, and that I was in front of the monster. He just looked straight at him, realizing that monsters are a real curse, and it seems he has already managed to cast a curse on several adventurers. However, this time he will have to endure the curse, since he was interested in coping or he with the curse of our hero. At that time, the same man appeared at the eastern gate of the southern city, saying that at the western gate of the city there were student monsters located. He was told about this, but he also decided to check the eastern gate because the bombs were noisy there, but they thought they couldn't meet another monster army. Meanwhile, the man was level 200 and the monster was level 210, and the man stood in front of the skeletons, confident in himself, realizing that they would not do anything to him. And he also understood that if he fought against him alone, he did not think that he could easily win. After all, the man admitted that his opponent was worthy of admiration, but unfortunately, no matter what army he gathers for victory, it will not be enough. The man immediately used the legendary demonic advent skill, saying that his life was gone. It will end exactly 5 seconds after his attack. And in the meantime, we return to the events of the western gate of the southern city, where our hero says that this time the one who will be cursed is this particular monster. After all, he wanted to see how he would cope with his attacks. Since our hero, I was already quite strong, since his level was 250, and the monster's level was 210. But for now, our hero attacked the monster, destroying several claws. He was suddenly surrounded by several skeletons preparing to attack. To their regret, they were completely uneven in level to our hero, since even a straight line and a sword were too tough for our hero, who said that if this is all they are capable of, then they don't have a single chance against him, and they must all be destroyed. And thus our hero absorbed levels and was able to reach level 290. But Monster P apparently didn't even want to stop his attacks. He still didn't understand what was happening, and even trying to attack, he could not hit our hero as he was very fast. But then suddenly our hero noticed some strange balls, and Ein immediately advised our hero not to touch these balls, to which our hero said that everything is fine and we shouldn't worry, since none of these balls will in any case touch him or hit him. But while our hero I was fighting the monster, one of those men did not understand what was happening. And even more so, who am I? Because he was very surprising. You understand that this is the same guy with whom he fought in the square. Meanwhile, our hero makes devastating attacks. Literally in an instant, he completely destroyed the monster, standing in front of him and talking about how he cursed a lot of innocent people, asking if he was happy with himself, but other than that, it didn't matter anymore. Because regardless of his answer, this will not help him since he will be destroyed right now. But then suddenly, literally all the balls he had looked like they were from the monster. And our hero didn't understand what was happening. Looking straight at them, I thought that maybe he didn't die. But in the meantime, all these balls were aimed straight towards the city. Turning around, he realized that he had lost his vigilance because all the balls were already flying straight towards the city. He immediately realized that his curse was flying straight towards the city's inhabitants. But the residents immediately saw that something was approaching them in the sky, but so far they did not understand what it was. But our hero, looking at it, understood that his original goal was the residents of the city. But in the meantime, our hero, I absorbed the monster's level, thereby increasing my level to 500. Ein, looking at everything that was happening, understood that things were bad for them, but in the meantime, I was already level 500 as our hero. They immediately thought that the monster himself was not as dangerous as his ability was more dangerous than the curse. You can't get rid of it that easily, for the victim of the curse reaches a slow and painful death. And for the monster's last attack should have caused most of the city's residents to suffer from the curse. Anyone in the city who could lift the curse. Ein immediately replied that only magic does this and only high-level magic is capable of this. However, after thinking a little, he said that in the strongest guild of the Sword City, the salvation of magicians with such a level, just 3, But as soon as our hero heard about 3 wizards in the whole city, he was a little confused and shocked. But the guy also said that he knows only 3 wizards who are able to cope with the curse. And then suddenly someone started running out from outside the city, asking the adventurers how they were feeling. Approaching, they said that they should be patient a little because they will now help them all. One of the magicians immediately turned to Lady Mina, saying that the curse placed on the adventurers was quite serious, but he thought that they had a chance to save them. The girl immediately said that this was great and everyone should focus on supporting their fallen comrades. After all, they would not allow anyone to die. It was that same Hmong girl, a high-level sorceress from the Salvation Sword Guild. There were only 3 wizards who were able to cope with this curse. But the sacrifice from this initiation is becoming greater every second, and at such a pace they will not be able to save everyone. But the girl didn't understand what kind of curse this was. Although at the same time she understood that she could dispel this curse, but it would take too much time. And she understood perfectly well that not only her comrades, but also all the inhabitants of the city suffered, and she must save everyone. Well, our hero just tried to release a very large amount of energy from himself. And at that moment he realized that if he stood out too much, he would meet with adventurers of the rank of catastrophe. He could not avoid this. Although he understood it, there was also a reason, because of which he could not leave the adventurers in trouble and thus was transformed and acquired a unique skill. Heavenly Blessing fires a bullet that removes the curse of any difficulty. The cost of this was 150, so our hero asked the guy, did he act correctly because now he was level 350? To which the guy immediately smiled and didn't say a word because everything was already clear. Well, as a matter of fact, our hero, set about saving everyone from the curse. Our hero actually found it and fired T right from the bullet so that everyone's state of curse would disappear. But the girl couldn't believe her eyes as he lifted the curse from every adventurer, asking who he is and how he did it. To which our hero turned around and said that they could talk about it later, since now a curse is raging in the city and they need to save them. To which the girl immediately said that of course they all need to be saved and she will go with them, saying that she is one of the strongest wizards in the guild and her duty is to help the victims. And already from time on, our hero, together with his friend and an attractive girl, looked at the terrifying places that were inside the city. I understand that the curse consumed all the inhabitants of the city and they had very little time, since now it was necessary to save the inhabitants from the curse and immediately, well, besides, our hero understood that many people suffered from his mistake and he had to save each of them. Since it was time for him to start saving the heavenly good using a special skill, there was immediately a request to use the immediately activated special skill of the heavenly armor because the new skill was ready for use. Meanwhile, the man was able to completely deal with the monster that was on the other side. But then the men turned sharply, looked at the city, and first thought a little and then said that the monsters didn't waste their time in vain. And our hero, I was already running along every street using my ability. He literally healed everyone along his path from the curse. The girl only had time to approach the wounded residents asking if everything was okay with them, and I realized that he had all the traces of the curse, thinking that this was all very amazing. But also Ein said that only the number of victims who fell from curses is too large and at such a pace. No matter how hard our hero tries, he will not be able to save everyone from the curse and the wool will still not be avoided. But our hero understood perfectly well that this was not enough because he only coped with a small part of the curse. So he immediately asked the Abyssal Armor if there was a way to increase the radius of the Heavenly Boon skill. Thus the request was sent, and while our hero, I continued to save people, I carried out all the search for answer options, and at some point I found an opportunity to answer the question because he was recommended to use the skill of expanding the territory. Since this skill can also be acquired at the level of the owner, and this skill itself is not so useful, but it can enhance the effect of special skills. Therefore, I immediately looked at the skill Seraphim Wings. Its category was Holy Magic. It was a very skill. Holy Blessings, when using this skill, it imposes Holy Magic on the owner's weapon, which is capable of clearing the territory of the curse. And also, if he wants to use this skill, he should say the command E, then just the special skill of Seraph's Wings, then the effect will be applied to his weapon. Thus our hero immediately calls upon the Holy Sword to request the skill of Seraphim Wings. And then a blue ball appeared in the hand of our hero, Holy Magic Wings of the Seraphim. And he also immediately submitted a request to use the skill to cleanse the entire city of curses. And immediately the golden sacredness began to literally envelop the entire city, targeting everyone. And within a moment, golden light completely enveloped the entire city, destroying all the curse in the area. And when the girl ran up to our hero, she couldn't believe what she was seeing because it was holy magic. Well, the girl asked our hero whether he was really just an adventurer or whether he was a saint, To which our hero, who turned around, said that there is no X, but on the other hand, to save the inhabitants of the city, he will do everything possible. Unfortunately, he is usually an adventurer. But then our hero, I turned to the guy, they said that he needed to talk to him, but the guy still didn't understand what they were talking about. And our hero also said that he went a little overboard. After all, he wanted to save the inhabitants of the city, but he completely forgot that he was hiding his power from everyone. And if everyone idly knows that he saved the city, adventurers of the rank of disaster will come here. And the guy understood what we were talking about, and he began to think, but then an idea suddenly came to his mind. The girls asked the guys if they needed anything, and the guy suggested that all the exploits of our hero be blamed on this girl. And everyone in the city stood and rejoiced that everything ended well. But as soon as the gates opened, a girl began to enter, and everyone looking at this lighting was very shocked. They also began to talk about the fact that the lady saved the city from a terrible curse. She is their divine heroine, and all residents owe their lives to her. And after some time, the central headquarters of the Adventurers Guild, the girl left the table. Approaching our hero, she said that she told everything about the whole incident as he asked, from the position that he was protecting the city from monsters and she was saving the inhabitants from the curse with the help of her magic. Our hero immediately thanked the girl, thinking that in the end he did not become a hero, that he single-handedly saved the inhabitants of the city from the curse of Ved instead. Ein gave him a very good idea to attribute all the feats of this day to the girl because she is one of the strongest magicians, and it would not look too suspicious. Well, the girl also said that all that was left was to write a detailed report about what happened, and she would help him with this, so he shouldn't worry. That's why our hero, I asked for forgiveness for overwhelming her with all this. But the girl said that there was no need to thank him since he saved them all from this horror, and she believed that in this way she would pay him for saving the inhabitants, because from now on he could count on any help from her. Ein, too, did not miss these words about the fact that the girl said any help because he thought it was great. Speaking of the fact that it seems that there are more people in the guild because of the story about the heroine who saved the city, but the girl immediately got angry and told him to stop calling her that. But the guy said that this is all natural because she is one of the best sorcerer of the Salvation Ball Guild, so the title of the divine heroine that saved the city from the desert curse suits her very well, since the main thing is not to show it and believe in this very lie. Since the divine heroine conveys to citizens the confidence that no matter what attack in the future, they will always be under the protection of a person like her. Since our hero, I was completely unsuited for this role, therefore, it is for her to play such a responsible role. But that our hero, I asked the guy if he was sure that it would work, but he immediately replied that P, of course, since he is confident in what he says. After all, thanks to the incredible abilities of our hero, they were able to turn the girl into a living legend of the city. So the guy immediately grabbed the girl furiously and began to lead her. I am our hero, I followed them. Since the guy wanted our hero to transfer his holy powers to her, but the girl did not understand why. And our hero said that if they want to maintain her status as a divine heroine, they need to transfer her divinity itself. But the girls immediately began to worry, wondering how he was going to transfer this power to her to shoot. Would he be a saint? To which our hero, I just asked for forgiveness, but it had to be done, and besides, he won't cause harm to her body, so everything will be fine. But if the girl doesn't want to, then he will understand her choice and will do nothing more. But the girl also said that she agreed because she herself said that they could count on her since the guy saved me people before her eyes, so now she completely trusts his decision. To which our hero, only coming closer, asked if she was confident. Our hero only thanked her for allowing him to do this. But since she herself agreed, our hero decided that he would not hold back, and he immediately began to use his seraphim wings skill towards the girl. She immediately appeared in public, and everyone began to call her a divine heroine. I say that they feel how she illuminates them with warmth and light there, consciously a real deity. To which the guy asked our hero not to twirl it in the air. To which our hero said that it was too difficult to control, and he still had not learned how to use it, and besides he had just learned it. That he seems to be enjoying this whole absurd situation. Is this true? To which the guy only replied that no one knows. But looking at the girl, he still thought about what? He stood out too much today and he should be more careful next time. And while our hero was thinking about this, a man suddenly appeared and asked if he had interfered with them. He also looked at our hero and asked him to step away for a few words because he needed to discuss something. To which our hero asked so much what they needed to discuss. And the man said that he shouldn't take him for an idiot because he knows everything. He knows who the true hero is. I saved the city. Our hero immediately realized that he really knows how it really is. And the man, meanwhile, just looked out of the window at that picture. He throws the girl up and is happy for her, but the man also said that they are going to condemn his methods. since he understood that the role of the hero still needed a person who was familiar to most residents of the city, to which the man said that one of the same was seen by the other adventurers who fought with them at the Western Gate. Since it was not only adventurers who participated in this battle because of their guild, now I understand what worried him so much. They didn't think that Mr. Jure would want to talk to them personally because of such a trifle. But the man turned around and said that no, that's not what he wanted to talk to them about. He didn't care how many adventurers saw Ark. He wasn't going to reprimand him for it in action. To which the guy also asked what the man wanted to talk to them about. To which the man asked them during the attack of monsters on the Western Gate, were they aware of what was happening at the Eastern Gate? They didn't understand which Eastern Gate we were talking about. Well, however, the man was not very surprised that they were not aware of what was happening at the Eastern Gate. After all, the incident with the Eastern Gate was quickly hushed up since only the adventurers of the Sword of Salvation Guild were there. I immediately asked what happened there. But the man also said that a horde of monsters had gathered at the Western Gate, but the same army was also waiting at the Eastern Gate. Since this attack was carefully planned, our hero was immediately worried about the question, asked him if the man was hurt or at the Eastern Gate. But the man answered no, and he shouldn't worry because he was there and destroyed all the monsters in time, and thus none of them had time to hurt any of them. Our hero understood how I was expected from the Supreme Adventurer, one of the most famous guilds on the continent, while everyone was climbing with the Western Gate. He did not waste time and decided to check another exit from the city, because without his help, they would not have been able to cope with such an army, and the monsters would have been able to enter the city through the Eastern Gate. After all, could they really have dealt with all these monsters alone? But then the man sharply said that they had a much bigger and more serious problem, since the attack was organized from two sides simultaneously. Although at the same time monsters are not able to think enough to attack in an organized manner, and there is a high probability that this attack was organized by a person. Ein immediately thought about it and realized that it was possible that it was true, because many in this attack did not agree with the obvious facts. Since he has been living in the city for a long time but has never met such monsters. Him and he asked other adventurers if they had seen similar monsters before, but they themselves did not remember fighting such monsters. Our hero, I asked him that, is this so unusual? To which the guy replied that at least such monsters do not live in their area, since it's hard for me to face such a huge monster given his ability and hostility, and also the strange thing that such a monster suddenly appeared next to their city. And then the man added that, in other words, it could be called just calling a monster. After all, if a person has a special skill or magic, he could very well summon an army of such monsters. And our hero thought, because it turns out that someone really wants to destroy the city. But if someone really planned this, then they need to strengthen the defense of their city. And he didn't want to talk to them about this the way he wants. So that Ark created his guild as soon as possible and fought side by side with the Sword of Salvation. Ein also noted that for now they cannot officially register as a guild because they still need to fill out a lot of paperwork and carry out a lot of bureaucratic work, and this process cannot be accelerated in any way. To which the man said that he was ready to help them and negotiate with the central administration. In return, Ark would promise him only two things. The first thing is that he will maintain cooperative relations between their guilds as its founder, and the second, he will personally evaluate his military battle in order to ensure his competence, asking whether our hero can handle it. To which he, after thinking a little, immediately answered yes. They had already found the building of the Central Council of the Adventurers Guild on the 3rd floor, a training ground, and they were in an excellent mood. But what the man said was that although it was impossible to do this, he allowed him to use any weapon in this training battle, because he wants to see his true strength and show his own. Because in battle with real weapons, in battle using your abilities, and in battle with a decisive attitude towards victory over the enemy, and literally a moment later a very strong energy emanated from the man, and the only thing he said was that he wanted him to show he was capable of something. And our hero also began to release very strong energy, only saying that he understood it. Ein immediately announced that the battle would begin after his signal, and in a moment, Ein immediately shouted that they could start, and then how our hero and the man rushed into battle in the Roidenok. Well, the man also said that he hopes that he will survive the battle against his sword, although at this time our hero was level 100. But the man was level 200, and our hero understood perfectly well that his victory in this sparring, because of the initial one, was doomed to failure. After all, with such a difference in levels, he will not be able to defeat him. And Jireh himself was well aware of this, and if this is so, then his task in this battle is not to defeat the enemy, and to show everything that he is capable of, because if a man wants to see his true abilities, then he will definitely demonstrate them. Therefore, our hero immediately rushed to attack the man. And our hero and the man both clashed with swords. but still the man was easily able to knock our hero's sword out of his hands. To which our hero immediately decided to summon the holy sword, the wings of seraphim, and the man, seeing E, was even a little surprised. But still the man managed to throw the guy a little further away from himself. But I didn't expect it, that our hero would be able to resist and not break and fell to the floor. And besides our hero, I was able to counterattack the man's attack and then try to hit the man. Although our hero, I couldn't hit the man. But nevertheless, he tried to throw his knife at the man, although he was able to fight off this knife very easily. But while he was fighting off the knife, looking sharply in front of him, he no longer saw the guy he was fighting with because our hero had disappeared somewhere. Although at the same time he was already literally over my head, the man said that even if their difference in levels was too great, I hoped that he enjoyed their fight. But then suddenly our hero, I carried out an attack that caused a strong explosion, and even the guy thought that it was incredible. Because despite the obvious difference in their levels, our hero's combat skills as an adventurer have undoubtedly improved. And this is the maximum that our hero was capable of at the moment. But he was wondering what the man thought about this duel. But then a man suddenly appeared, laughing very hard. He immediately said that if they had not had such a big difference in levels, he would definitely have died from such a direct blow. And it was quite good, but there is no doubt about such combat skills. But still he wanted to proceed to the next part of their battle because of how he would defend himself. These are the direct attacks of men. Our hero at this time did not immediately understand what kind of murderous mood it was. And even the guy, despite this, thought that he really wanted to use it against Ark. This was the legendary demonic advent skill, to which the man said that this was a life and death fight. If he doesn't stop him, his life will end in exactly 15 seconds. Our hero understood that he decided to use the legendary skill of the demonic advent, but they understood what its power was. Ein immediately began shouting to our hero to be very careful, since demonic coming is a skill that doubles the owner's level within 15 seconds. And as soon as our hero heard about it twice, he was very surprised because he understood that he wanted to say that now his level, Mr. Gray's strength, is 400, and the man himself confirmed that his blood is already boiling in his veins because it's been a long time since he fought so much with adventurers that are equal to him in strength. Since initially this is a fight, I was hurt to test his ability, but still, a lot of fun in these 15 seconds. To which the man, looking at our heroes, said that he met all his expectations and even more. After all, a demon was sleeping inside him all this time, and he was sleeping in anticipation of a worthy opponent, and now no one will stop him. The man continued to make attacks towards our hero, and these attacks were quite strong and crushing, that even at some point one of the attacks literally knocked our hero out onto the street. And the girl looked into the sky with all the inhabitants and did not understand what was going on inside. And the man also said that there were 10 seconds left and whether he could withstand all his attacks from the inner demon. And a moment later the report began while our hero was flying and the man was behind him. And our hero at some point began to understand that her mind was leaving him, thinking that he really had lost. The girls also stood on the street and just looked in the direction of our hero and were very worried. Meanwhile, he had already been walking for 6 seconds. He immediately thought about the fact that these two suddenly showed up at his guild and attacked her with a ton of questions. But then he immediately remembered about the guild. And then he immediately remembered the girl, thinking that he had definitely said goodbye to her after he met Mr. Jure. And he also remembered that in order to protect this city and other people, he decided to found his own guild. And already at the moment of opening my eyes, there were 4 seconds left, but the man was close enough. And the man also noticed that his demon rejoices because he only really fights against strong opponents, and that was so long ago. And for a long time without showing his true self to another person, but unfortunately everything will end very soon, and he decided to use a demonic black flash at the end. It was aimed at our hero, and in fact it would have been able to hit him. But our hero understood and also admitted that he was still far from his skill, because in this battle he lost, but he would try to do everything to survive. Since the explosion of the sacred weapon, his weapon can explode and the remaining holy power will protect him from the opponent's attacks. Our hero, I used the holy sword, Seraph's wings ordered him to explode, which in fact happened literally in front of the hands. The sword exploded and was protected by the aura of our hero. Although already at that moment the man's sword was quite close to our hero, he was still lucky because he managed to defend himself. But besides, the attack still doesn't leave a trace, and our hero received the same blow from the blast wave, from which he began to fly in the other direction faster than he was flying before. Our hero flew into the ass and turned to the armor, trying to restore the sword wings from Rafim, because he still needs a skill that will help him get another weapon in his hands, to which the armor told him that in this situation it is necessary to use level conversion, but his enemy's level is too high and it was recommended to retreat. Although he understood this, he was not going to run away because he had to fight him, and for this he needed a new sword and vest. He immediately offered 2 epic skills that fit his request. The first was weapon restoration and quick weapon repair. It cost 90 levels. Our hero decided to buy, so he spoke about the restoration of the weapon and the rapid repair of the weapon. Thereby the requests for receipt were confirmed, and our hero's 2 goals were immediately restored. And holding them both in his hand, he immediately said that he was waiting for the demon to cool him down with his deadly blades. After all, he thought that if he could hold out a little longer, he would definitely defeat him. After all, he could still fight. But nevertheless, he immediately fell in front of the man, and I lost consciousness. To which the man only said that he should now rest because 15 seconds had already come to an end. And after a while, our hero, I woke up, suddenly blew up and shouted that he could fight. But then he saw that he was lying in bed, and he was inside their guild base. Lyra immediately approached our hero and said that she and Mill decided to go buy groceries for dinner and saw him fall from the top of the tower. Holding the hand of our hero, she said that they were very scared, asking how he felt, and only now our hero began to understand what they were doing there. And then a girl ran up and said that she was glad that she had woken up. After all, they were so worried about him. After all, they beat him pretty badly this time. And the girl also said that because of his belt, Mr. Jiray, the tower of the guild headquarters, was damaged, asking what they thought about what they were doing. Our hero, listen, that's all. The only thing he said was that he asks for forgiveness for making them all worry, but still. He immediately asked if he passed the test, and the man in front of a steely gaze answered that he still passed. But only our hero, I wanted to talk to the man when he interrupted him and said that before he lost consciousness, 15 seconds had already passed. Although at the same time he invested all his skill and determination into these 15 seconds. And oddly enough, he is the first adventurer to survive these 15 seconds and escape with only minor injuries. Our hero, as soon as he heard E, of course, was immediately delighted. Ein immediately began to turn to the gentleman, saying that it seemed he wanted to say something else to our hero, to which the man said that it was true that they said that even though he had not fought with opponents who were equal to him for a long time, he acted very immaturely, using his legendary skills in their sparring. Due to the fact that emotions took over his mind, he suffered, and he is very sorry that this happened. Ein, immediately smiling, said that it was possible that he, at least together with Ark, would defend the city, but in a month of this he almost destroyed it, and it seems to him that he needs to repent more for what he has done. So he asked to please apologize properly, and the man asked for forgiveness again, to which our hero just sat smiling. But then the man said that he passed the first part of the test. But nevertheless, as soon as he is rested, he should begin the second part of the test. It was that he had to clear one of the dungeons. And the man said that east of the city in the desert there are underground ruins. Adventurers nicknamed this dungeon the Old Witch's Workshop. As soon as she heard it, the girl was very confused, and our hero, looking at the girl, was a little misunderstood. And the man continued to say, before, a powerful witch lived in these ruins, but after her death, this place was filled with a monster. So our hero immediately became curious about what kind of monsters live there, to which the man said that it was unknown, and our hero was very surprised by this answer. But what the girl also said is that over the past few years, unusual magical anomalies have been born from this workshop, and because of these anomalies, the monsters became stronger and more aggressive, and many of the Kuptsovs who were heading to the city were attacked by them. However, they never found out the source of this anomaly, and they only understood that the anomaly came from a monster that was seeding in these ruins. Guild magicians came to the conclusion that this monster has a level of 300. What is our hero, I think, about level 300? I understood that this was higher than the desert monsters that attacked the city. And the man also said that the ruins themselves pose a danger since none of the adventurers have yet reached their depths. But since the guy coped with the first part of the test, he thought that he could cope with this. After all, he should explore the ruins in the Old Witch's Workshop and destroy the monster that haunts the magical anomalies. Therefore, the men only asked our hero if he accepted his challenge. But then they showed us that someone in the middle of a small room was sitting in the center on a chair. It was the same witch who overheard the conversations of the man and our hero. She immediately said that again the brats wanted to get into her chambers. This made her very angry. They say that the war will destroy everyone who tries to come to her. Meanwhile, events moved to the desert east of Durham. Meanwhile, you are our hero. I came to the place he needed. It was the Old Witch's Workshop, the entrance to the dungeon of the Old Witch's Workshop. But our hero, I turned around and asked if she was sure that she wanted to come in with them. Mila, who said that she was 100% sure her level was 10, she was a novice adventurer. Speaking of helping Ark, Video Adventures in the central office, she was given a license as a novice adventurer. After all, she knew why he decided to leave their village since Ein told them everything. Turning around, she just said that our hero is a very incredibly kind person. Speaking of not harming the villagers, he decided to leave her, but she would like to become as strong as him, that's why. She really wanted to travel with him. But our hero, I immediately said that the old witch's workshop would be a very dangerous place for a novice traveler. After all, she only has the 10th level. But that the girl also immediately began to shout that he had exactly the same 10th level. But our hero, I said that this is all because I will interrupt the girl and said that in the central control they found out that he has an epic skill, saying that this is incredibly cool. Because unlike her, she will not gain levels if she does not get into difficult battles. And for the sake of strength, she is ready to take such risks, but still our hero said that it was somehow unreasonable on her part. And also the girl smiling, she said that she knows that the guy will always protect her. To which our hero, I said that he won't argue anymore and let it be according to her. And then, having already gathered together, they were ready to enter the workshop. It was the old witch's workshop on the first floor. There is so much magical energy in this dungeon because it is definitely not an ordinary collapsed place, main level 120. Well, besides, with the appearance of a source of magical energy, it is necessary to pump the arch to the maximum, ein level 120. Our hero understands perfectly well that if he meets an enemy with level 300, he will not be able to defeat him so easily at his current level, since his level was currently level 10. And the guy thought that it would be much easier to raise the level of Ark on the way here, but because of the battle with empty curses, all the local monsters simply hid in their own. Well, suddenly a monster appeared in front of our heroes. It was an iron level of level 50, and our hero understood what kind of local monsters there are now because he would be perfect for him as a way to level up. The guys also noticed that they would weaken this guy and our hero would deal the final blow. And although the monster tried to attack the guys, it still didn't hit because they dodged. And the guy told our hero that he shouldn't worry because they are one of the best adventurers in the city and they won't stand on ceremony with such an enemy. The girl also began to attack the monster, saying that they will not allow anyone to harm him. And after 2 hands were torn off, the guy shouted to our hero that now it was time to attack. And our hero, I immediately rushed into the attack to destroy the robot. But then suddenly the robot's head literally grew, and what about our hero? I was very surprised. He immediately realized that he had transformed, and at this rate he would simply crush him.